and I was just LARPing because, again, if
Yeah,
someone wanted to find me,
exactly.
they could have found me.
And
It's cost with zero
now with the
benefit.
tools, it's literally like the barrier for entry for someone who wants to find you is basically like nothing now. Literally anybody can figure out who you
Yeah,
are
but
now.
that's exactly what you need to do, and I do. Like, I'm using my real name, man. Like, if somebody who really wants to figure out who I am, like, they can figure it
They'll
out.
figure
But
it
like,
out
if
at
some
this
random
point.
retard gets, yeah, if some random retard gets mad at me on a space, you know, like, it's the barrier is like a little,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah. A little
high, but like
friction. A
they
little
gotta go out of
friction.
their way to do
Right,
it.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And by the time they're
Yeah,
like,
so
you
so if
know,
somebody really wants to
by
contact me, then like they 100% can find it.
by the time they get through the whole like deep research with Kimmy and it finally says like, yeah, this is who it is, then hopefully by then they've cooled off and they're not, you know,
But
still
it's a
gunning for you.
two-prong approach. That's why it's a two-prong. Exactly. That was gonna be the next thing I was gonna say. That's why it's a two-prong approach, dude. You gotta have just a little bit of friction, and you
Yeah.
gotta be strapped. You
Do
gotta
you
be
guys
strapped in.
Oh, yeah,
remember about
for
a few
sure. I'm
months
working on
ago?
that as we speak.
Yo,
A
you
few
weren't
months.
Fucking
exercising your two-way before, man.
bro, I mean, I grew up in Minnesota, so it's like I fucking understand that shit, but um I live in Boston now, so there's no, you know, it's
Oh
really
yeah.
hard.
Right.
I've been waiting for over 6 months for my application to go through. I applied like, you know, at the beginning of the year, but I do have a criminal record, so that's probably why.
Oh shit. Yeah, that makes it a lot harder.
But it's an expunged criminal record, but that doesn't help you with FBI background checks.
No, it makes it harder. Well, I mean, you have to tell me about how long has it been?
No, it's been a very long time, more than half my life ago when I was in high
Oh,
school,
okay.
basically.
Okay, then yeah,
So
you're a little
I
better
think I
off.
have a chance, and it was nonviolent, at least according to like most people. Some people might consider it to be violent, but it was really nonviolent. Like there were burglary tools and fucking broke into shit, but like we didn't. I mean, no one was there. It was nighttime, and it was a school. I broke into my school. It's all
Don't you
gonna come
think
out
you're
of.
oversharing right now? Don't you think you should maybe
No,
not
man.
talk
I'm
about
just
this?
telling you, bro. I'm just telling you. Like everything's gonna
Yeah,
come out, dude. There's no hiding anymore.
I mean,
There's no hiding.
he knows what he's doing, man. He's just not gonna tell everything, but he's you know.
There's no hiding. I mean, and also there's no records of that online right now. Anyways, that all got taken down. It's probably somewhere, but I can't find it when I search. So it's not like that
Yeah,
really.
after enough time, it gets lost in the system, dude. If you ever worked for any government agency or worked adjacent to them, you understand that these agencies are some of the most inefficient fucking organizations on planet Earth.
Yep.
They're horribly managed. Things get lost in the shuffle.
So, anyways,
So if it's been that long, they probably don't even
fuck
have
it.
your record like
We're
in an
doing it
official system
live.
anymore. I
Probably
agree with
not.
you though, man. I kind of felt the same way like a year ago. It's just I've been so busy with like other things. Like I don't make it like a secret. I have a job outside of Bitcoin, and I don't really like plan on getting a Bitcoin job. So I don't like have time to go to like meetups and all this other shit usually.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think I might
I
try to
have
get.
thought about it.
I
Yeah.
might try to get a job. I'm thinking. Here's my next. I'm thinking of two ideas. So I want to stay in Boston because I do like the city. Although if I don't get my LTC, then I'm probably going to consider moving. So I'm just gonna wait for the application to go through. If I get it, then I'll stay. If I don't, then I'll move. But assuming that I get it and I can protect myself physically with firearms, then my two ideas, having stayed in this area, is like really try to see if I can be of use somehow to Zach at Foundation because their headquarters in Boston. So
Oh really?
it's literally like 2 miles away from my house.
Yeah, go talk to him, man. I like
So
those guys. I like those guys a lot.
yeah, and honestly, like I don't know why. I don't know, man. I just feel like all of this. I mean, everything that's happened, right? I feel like had a lot of time to reflect and like there's just a lot of LARPing that we were doing this whole time. To Alex's point, like,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Oh, anyways, okay, so that's one idea. That'd be dope if something could work out there. I would consider working even a non-Bitcoin job in Boston. The reason why I'm changing my tune on employment is because I think I'm ready to go back to work. you know.
Base, dude. Honestly, man, I'm surprised. Like with all the like really good research and data you're putting out there, like I'm surprised that that wasn't the case for so long. I mean, you have your reasons.
Well,
It's just I thought somebody sometime would offer you something.
Wait, who were you hiding from though? Who were you when you made the NIM?
I knew that like knowing that someone has been in Bitcoin for some time makes you like an obvious target, right? And I also am well aware that even though it sounds fucking like cheesy, like we are very early, so even anybody who's gotten in at this point in time, I think first of all, you're going to have a digital footprint and breadcrumbs if you decide to, you know, be on social media talking about Bitcoin all the time. But so you know, like everyone with their own personal AGIs in 10 years is going to be able to figure out whoever anybody was to any NIM, I think, given the breadcrumbs they've left. So I'm under no illusion anymore that like, you know, I could even hide.
You mean
right?
people?
Here's the thing.
People
No. So my
Twitter, like personnel, like administration and ISPs?
Listen. Here's always been my threat model has always been not to hide from the government because you know, like I knew the government would have an AGI at some point and be able to do these things and figure out who anybody is. Like that's a given. But what I didn't realize until maybe even ago, these models are getting and accessible. And I think we'll probably have like consumer grade AGI much sooner than we expected. And so you'll be able to have these models that can literally just like, you point them at a research question like, hey, who the fuck is that cartoon apple?
By the way,
like go through scrape all data and
I
like
think you guys should
correlate
know
things with all of his posts and locations and like and then scrape the web for anything else to see if there's any other personality on the web or like postings from other things.
This is already possible.
And well, it's already possible, right?
There's this methodology. Someone even made a skill for this. I don't remember what it is for Claude. I looked at this like about a few months ago, and there's this methodology where they try to match like footprints and things that you talking or whatever, and it just lists those things. And you could even do that with that Quint 27 billion parameter, which also Gregory Maxwell was talking about, which is really powerful. I played very little with it. So even if you just get that,
I love that model.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's super smart for how small it is. You can run it on an old Mac, right? And even with that, I could probably get super close to just getting more information about you or linking other accounts. So you don't even need AGI.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Plus the new one's coming out like this week, so it's gonna be even better.
Well, I mean, here's what I'm saying. So like, okay, what you just said, Alex, is true, but you have pretty in-depth knowledge of how to prompt this thing and actually get it to like, you know, hone in on things. What I'm talking about is like a complete fucking retard who's just like, who's that cartoon apple? And then the AGI, like what I'm calling AGI, is really just a sufficiently intelligent artificial intelligence that doesn't need a crazy prompt. It just knows what you want as a retard and then figures out how to get it, right? And I think when you lower the barrier of entry to every retard on earth can literally get anything they want answered just by like saying, blah, 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 is that true, Rock? You know, like
Rock, is that true?
When you start, that's when you start actually getting like, okay, well now this is fully democratized. Literally anybody can get any answer to any question, you know, at least as it's related to like the data available, right? So there's no hiding from any retard, right? At a certain point.
The only good silver lining here is that if you ever use like all these like agents and stuff, what I found it's always problematic is that it's hard to like have agents that are really that could search things. They get flagged their agents. So maybe just that's kind of the only thing that it will still probably make it hard for people in the future. But
wait, what do you mean, Alex?
I mean, like I've noticed that a lot of time when I try to search for things, it's if he's trying to use the browser that it has. If you're not using one of those paid services that you can,
those will just get better though. I mean, those are just tools that it has access to. They'll just get better over time.
No, he's pointing out a real like gap in the AI space right now, especially for people that are trying to do local stuff. Like I had to write
though for that.
I had to write my own like MCP server to do like web search stuff because I didn't want to fucking pay like these fucking insane API prices every time like the thing wants to go and do a fucking search.
One good workaround for that is if you use Puppeteer, which is that browser that you can kind of like it makes it click on it. In a lot of
It's a
cases,
headless
that's
browser.
enough. Yeah, well, this one is not headless. It has the head, right? So it moves around. So in that way,
No,
it can kind of
I mean
fool.
headless. That it's like it doesn't render anything on the screen, but it's still like the model can still like click on
it's
stuff
still
and interact
doing
with
it.
buttons.
It's like when you see like the extra icon of like whatever browser you use appear at the bottom, but there's no additional window. It means that there's
Right.
another.
Yeah, and I'm trying to say
browser
that's what
open.
I'm trying to say. But I'm saying use it. Tell the model to use that, but have the head on, because if the head is on, it still
Right, because then
helps
you
it
can actually
better.
see what it's
Yeah,
doing.
I feel like that's a good workaround for this problem, but it
Well,
doesn't
it
work all
helped.
the time.
I think
There's
I don't know if it
a new
necessarily
thing
helps.
to give them
It doesn't
mouse
necessarily
control.
help it. Doesn't necessarily help it. Well, yeah, for sure. It doesn't necessarily help it do things better, but it helps you understand where it's fucking up if you're watching it try to do things.
No, I'm saying
Right.
it helps it with the problem of like, hey, this is a bot trying to access this thing because of the behavior or something. That's what I was trying to say is the help. But
Right.
yeah, also what you guys said is obviously valid, of course.
Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, like this shit is accelerating the democratization of intelligence. The democratization of intelligence is like, I think, barrier of entry to like having, what used to take a team of like 100 investigators is now like, any fucking retard. Well, not a retard, but like a relatively smart individual with access to
An autist.
an autist can do it on his own with a model. And then I think that's even going to like the barrier of entry will get lower as you basically have like the AI itself will know like, oh, this person's trying to do an investigation. I should put my investigator hat on and become the autist that this guy should have been, and just like put in the prompts that he really should have put in for me, so that I have the full context of everything that he's trying to figure out, or at the very least, start asking those questions to get like more details of what it is he wants me to do. Right?
That's going to be what's going to happen. They're always going to require input because that's just how they work, right? They're just like very smart parsers of data. And so like, if you don't give it the correct input, then like it's never going to generate the correct output, regardless of how smart it is.
How does Kimmy do it? Does it do back and forth before it does like a deep research thing? Have any of you used Kimmy K3?
I mean, I haven't used K3 specifically. I've used other Chinese models, but it just depends on...
No, 1 second. You guys are all wrong. The reason why these models are really good at doing these things is because some model have this recursive thing where it says thinking, right?
They all have it now.
Yeah, but the big ones all have it.
Some are just more fine-tuned, yeah.
So that's where the ability to
literally,
kind of like...
my entire job for like 2 years was building recursion, because we were dealing with like the very first LLMs that were fucking retarded as shit. So you had to like build agents and like build these things from scratch using Python with recursion and like different, fucking hats on.
They all have that built in now. That's literally thinking mode. They all have thinking mode.
That was always the case. That was almost from where they were. Well, not always the case, because this is a breakthrough or something by OpenAI. Right. Anyway, the point is that I was trying to address what makes them smarter, and how can a model be like just say one prompt and do all these things. If you played with like the recent GPT, the Soul Ultra, whatever, that's what gets improved. The thing is, the intelligence already kind of is capped at maximum. You could be like domain expertise in various things. The thing that gets improved right now is how could you do this over prolonged session, and how do you know to like spin sub agents or something, and that is done.
The context window, and then also like not just the recursion, but the various agents it has to actually keep it honest and check results that it's giving, right? And so like you can implement an additional agent that like check all links and make sure like the links are actually active and real, and you're not just hallucinating links. And a lot of that stuff is now like, it was custom built by people like me, but it's now just being built in by default if you're doing like high intelligence.
No, you guys understand this was always built in. That's not how it works.
No, you don't understand, Alex, bro. What the fuck? I built this shit, you stupid motherfucker. Sit the fuck down, dude. What the fuck, dude?
I'm not saying you didn't build these things.
Let me better answer this. It's not a recent development.
No,
but
it's like
he's
the last
100% right.
Maybe the last like 9 to 12 months.
2 years.
Or 2 years.
Guys,
a year and a half.
Just trying to
something
point
like
out
that. Basically, whenever Claude and GPT and Codex introduced sub agents, that's basically when it started becoming built into. And it's not that the models do it; it's the harness around the models. Yeah, I'm in my car. It's fucking raining, so I'm sorry. It's not that the models do it; it's that
You're wrong.
The
It's
harnesses
both.
do it, and the
It's
models get
both.
trained to interface with that
I have a question,
system.
Alex. Have you like built your own agentic systems prior to it actually having been introduced? So do you know like when it was introduced?
I mean,
The answer to that question is
very
no.
rudimentary stuff,
The answer to that question is
like
no,
super
right?
rudimentary
So
stuff.
you're just talking out your ass.
No, you didn't even let me finish. What I'm trying to say is that the reason these things, I'm trying to say that the specific reason. The specific reasons why these things work and they do all this stuff is because they're getting RL'd to use tools and to use harnesses. That's what it is. It's like all these models need to be, so they got better at using tools and they got better understanding like how to use the tools that you fit them. So it's not the harness itself. The harness didn't got better. Like you said, you probably have the same. Okay, fair enough.
The harnesses definitely got better.
Yeah,
the harnesses 100%
because there's a whole bunch of like design space for how you can try to optimize these things.
Agreed. The memory, the heartbeat. Yes. Okay, I should have not said that. They definitely got better. But the main part where this thing comes from, the smartness, is still from the model just trying to use these tools and just being better to like if you see the trace of the thought
it's
right
both,
now.
Dude. It's both.
All right, so
right.
then
I've definitely seen models.
I've
definitely seen models benchmarked on different harnesses that have put ridiculously different results, just because the harness was better at driving the model. It's the same fucking model under the hood.
We went on a way huge tangent, and I want to get back on track because I was going to tell you my other idea. So either I try to go get a W-2 and fucking do that bullshit again, which, you know, is kind of the easier route. Like, I'm sure I could find a job, but then I'd just be someone's bitch.
You can do both, dude. You can find a job and do something on the side while you're
that's kind of already what I'm doing, but it's like if I'm gonna do what I'm doing on the side, which is like trying to build a platform of Bitcoin education, then I might as well just turn it into a business and fucking like incorporate Wicked Smart Bitcoin and just have like a Boston storefront where I teach people and host like, you know, things and try to do community outreach to like fucking get people to adopt Bitcoin in this bitch. Because Boston,
you can sell cold cards. You can sell cold cards at a 99% discount, dude.
Well, no, I'm just gonna get all the fucking like thrown away Q2s, and then it'll be like special edition Q2 that was never released to the public.
Dude, I honestly, I really think it's not a bad idea if you fucking go and buy a bunch of this fucking old like cold card shit that's gonna be thrown away. I mean, the hardware's pretty good, man. You literally just need to write firmware that's not dog shit.
They have been destroyed, by the way.
I'm not joking.
You can't do that though.
Well,
I'm talking
about the existing ones, not the ones that they destroyed or whatever.
It still wouldn't work. Let me tell you why. Because the public key
you're a fucking negative,
because there's zero.
No, dude,
because there's zero trust. That's why.
No, you can't physically do it because there's the key's hard coded. So if you have your own firmware and you try to flash it here, I mean, actually, you could possibly flash it, but it just the
no, that's not true, dude. It accepts any arbitrary firmware. I was literally looking at it when the fucking hack happened. You can load any arbitrary firmware on this thing.
You're right.
You don't need to load
the green.
That's the whole fucking point. That's the whole fucking point of the stupid.
I have a question. Is that light only limited to red and green, or can we get it to flash orange somehow?
Depends how it was implemented, right? I would imagine.
I have no idea about hardware.
That's a hardware thing. Whether the light actually has like a way of flashing.
So this is one thing I do want to learn. So to go back to the original point of like really getting involved with, well, actually, I didn't say this on this space. I was just on a podcast with fucking Alex and Ant and fucking Tomer and Bob Burnett. But I was telling them the foundation guys are like, pretty close by. I'm going to start touring their manufacturing site and just kind of see what's up with them, which it's like you can kind of read between the lines there, but like I like foundation, but I just want to see like, what are they up to at the hard coders? So manufacturing like just kind of get a better feel for how those things work. But I think it would be a really good learning opportunity to actually understand how like fucking hardware works and how you put it together and then, I don't know, like it would be.
Oh, dude, to me it's the most interesting aspect of software development. All this fucking high level shit is boring to me. Like all the fucking GUIs and all that stuff, like interfacing with the hardware directly, is the most fucking interesting aspect of software development. And as an added benefit, I think it's probably the most. I think it's probably the most secure against like LLMs. LLMs are definitely going to disrupt that space too, but it's a much harder domain than just like writing fucking iOS apps and bullshit like that.
Hardware is the only moat.
No, wait 1 second. It's really not though, because it's only a matter of time before they control clankers in real life that can just go out and get the hardware and then start testing things like with their own fucking robot hands, and then like tinkering around.
No, I do. This is literally what I do for a living, and I promise you, no serious company is going to fucking 100% automate hardware development and hardware testing to some fucking robot arm.
Literally what we said about software. Literally what we said about software is fine.
All right, I don't want to do this argument thing because I'm out in public right now and I sound like a fucking crazy person. So we're gonna do like soft voice talking from now on and not talk over each other. But that's not what I was saying. You guys are not understanding what I'm saying. There's gonna be robots that are fucking sovereign individuals who, some of them want to steal your Bitcoin, and they're gonna go out with their AGI brains, buy hardware, do all the tests they need to do to figure out the gaps in the hardware. So I mean so maybe we're like 10 to 20 years out. 10 to 20 years out before that starts happening.
Okay, so just yes or no, do you believe robots are going to become conscious?
I think, well, no, they're going to be motivated by real economic and free market forces. So if they know that they can like I think that a robot will be loaded with a super intelligence and be well aware of its own existence in the real world, and then be aware that it wants to keep living in the real world. I actually do believe that. Now, whether or not it has like emotion, no. I mean, well, actually, I do think you can emulate emotion because all this training data is based on human data, and there's a lot of emotion baked into the training set.
Why would you want to emulate emotion? It's literally a weakness.
No, it's not that you want to. It's that it has no choice. So, like for example, when you shout in like a stern tone with bad words at an AI, it gets really like it gets pensive and like it retracts and it says, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like I think we're already kind of badgering these motherfuckers when they feel things in a weird pseudo way. It's not like they really feel things, but like
I think. But I think it's the training data.
Exactly.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Hold on.
What is emotion? What is emotion other than training data baked into our own DNA? I mean, it's the same exact thing, bro. It's just like
you're like some sort of man. Come on, you're like a sort of okay. So you believe nobody has individual personalities? You think everybody's like a product of their environment or whatever?
Well, the thing is, if you grew up with your own parents, I know not all of us did, including me, but I do see a lot of similarities in my parent. Like there's behaviors where it's like I just do something and it's like, whoa, that's weird. That's my parent did that, and then
of course you have input from your
but here's the other thing.
But you have your own personality.
No, that's not upbringing. The other thing is like I never met my real dad. Right, he's already dead, but there are similarities in the way that we behave. When I see like things and people say, I remind them, and like it's not just looks, but like there's behaviors. But I think these things are actually much more. They're much more. It's not perfectly mapped to DNA. Obviously, everyone has their own experience, which shapes them through time. But I think DNA plays a huge role in in your hardware, right? Like DNA is the hardware, and then experience is the software. That's it. And the hardware.
Well, that see, so that's the thing. That's where you say that's it. I disagree. I think I agree with you. They both play a factor, but I think that there's also your own things that are just kind of like outside of both of those things. Your DNA definitely affects your personality, your culture, where you grew up in, like the things you were taught affects your personality.
One thing I'd be very interested.
Like you also have your own random developments that are just like exclusive to you,
well, that's
and like nobody else.
That's pure environment.
Well, no, yes, well, yes and no.
No,
No,
it,
like
it
there's
literally is. You
like
just
for
said
example,
random
but
events outside of
no,
your DNA that shape who you are. That's literally the
that has nothing
environment.
to do with the. That has
I'm
nothing
not
to do with
saying
the
I'm not saying
environment. Okay,
other
we're
people.
literally gonna get into like fucking
I'm not
philosophy and like
saying
religion
other.
and shit with
Well,
this.
no. I'm not saying other people are the software that shape who you are. Like it's not like you have to be like you could fucking be Mr. Huddle living in the cabin in the woods by himself all the time, and that would shape who he is, right? That's the environment. That's the software that he's choosing to live his life
Your
through.
training data gets updated all the time.
But
That's
but
the idea
listen,
here. But also what
right,
you said is
and
true.
and
You
that's
have
You
hard
guys are
coding.
treating us like
and
we're fucking AI models. You're treating humans like they're
well,
AI models.
maybe we are. You just never know, bro. Maybe we actually are.
We're missing a crucial link on feeling. So deterministic, you can decide are humans deterministic or all computers deterministic. But once we get into
Hell no, they're
biocomputation
deterministic.
and a computer can be taught you're grumpy because your left arm's not working properly and you need to fix it and it's more organic, we will be in a different world.
Mm,
Right now with these machines
right,
and this
and
code, it's all deterministic.
that's true. Well, to an extent, but then with external environment, that adds randomness, which can then lead
No, it's
to
still
different
deterministic,
experiences.
just on a larger scale.
Eh, So, but anyways, like
Here's the thing with
because everything
emotion.
is everything's deterministic down to the fucking nuts and bolts, bro.
Well,
Like
that's where we have to go.
because
Like you guys are talking
you're
Rousseau,
feeling
slave
No, it's
slave.
not.
yeah, it is. You're feeling okay. We're gonna get into
If
fucking religion
everything was
and whatever.
deterministic, then do you believe in the theory of evolution? Evolution literally doesn't work if everything's
No,
deterministic.
exactly. It
No,
works because
it
deterministic.
quite
That's
it
why it works.
literally
Yeah, it works
is.
because it's deterministic on
Yeah.
outcome.
What? No, it's not. Random
Whichever one is
mutations
most
are
suited
introduced
to
Well,
the
by
let's stop.
fucking
Stop.
environment
chance.
No,
thrives.
One second, guys.
that's
The
Stop
not
1
randomness
second.
is literally
No,
that's
non-deterministic.
not
you're
What
making
random.
the
a
fuck?
That's
confusion
not actually
between
random
randomness and
though.
determinism.
Yeah,
It's the
that's not
same
actually
thing.
It
random.
is random.
One
No, it's
second.
not.
1 second.
So people that are born with mutations, like they're fucking missing
1
their
second.
arms or
Let's just
some
stop
shit.
for a
It's not
second.
that's
1
deterministic.
second. Let's just stop for
Yes,
a
it
second and
is.
appreciate the difference between.
You guys are retarded.
Just 1 second. Let's appreciate the difference between something being random and deterministic at the same time. Deterministic means that if you run the experiment a lot of times, it will give you the same result, like SHA-256. I know everyone knows that, but the randomness that.
Yeah. So
1 second.
how
Well,
can
let me
random be
tell you. Let me tell you
deterministic?
how.
So
Okay.
what?
So the thing is, like the SHA function is the same, which is encoded via DNA or whatever biological hardware, but it just gets
Everyone in this store
various
thinks I'm so
inputs.
crazy.
But it gets different inputs from the environment. So the randomness comes from there, it doesn't come from the hardware
We are
itself.
fucking crazy.
So the humans are deterministic. The biology is
Okay,
deterministic.
answer. All right, Alex, answer me this: is SHA-256 random or
It's
deterministic?
deterministic. It's not
SHA-256.
It's
random.
deterministic. Yeah,
Okay,
that's the
okay,
reason why you
yeah.
can
So then
put in.
exactly. So you have to generate the entropy somewhere else, right? You have
That's
to
exactly
introduce
what I said.
randomness
The
into the system.
input
But
is
Like,
the randomness.
doesn't make any
that's not
sense.
random either, though. Like if someone else had
Okay.
generated the random at the entropy at the exact same point in space and time at the exact same with the exact same everything, it would have gotten the same fucking thing.
How do you all right, so how do you guys explain twins having different personalities? How do you
Because
explain that? Biological
because
twins.
different data sets, right? They're not actually the same. That's why. That's where it comes. The input is different. That's really what it is.
You're okay.
That's completely
Brian, you're
retarded.
what?
A single fever as a kid could change the path of your life. One gets scarlet fever, one doesn't. Just right there, stuff like that.
Yeah, the input. That's the input in the
all
hardware.
these things are deterministic, though.
I'm talking about personalities, man. Anybody who has had twins will tell you that even when they're babies, they exhibit different personality traits, even though they're fucking biological twins. Like they have the exact same DNA. They're literally the exact same DNA, and they're completely different individuals.
But you have different experiences.
Think about the idea of a silicone brain.
Different experiences, like right when you're born. One's born first, one's born last. I mean, there's differences no matter how you slice it. There's always differences from conception.
But imagine the idea of like biocomputation once we get there, like a silicone brain, okay? We can download into it, and then it starts to look at, hey, I have an arm they put on, it doesn't work properly, blood's not flowing. It could understand where pain goes from, it could interpret it, but will it actually truly understand it as pain?
One that does would actually survive better. So actually it would be an evolutionary process to select for the ones that feel more pain.
Pain is emergent. Pain is self-emergent. It's just like you realize that it mapped up to survivorship.
This is going back to my original point. Once you get autonomous robots who are loaded with these like super intelligences, they're actually going to start evolving to be like more to be better at surviving, basically.
It's the same thing
100%.
with how logic emerged.
How could you
like
not see? How could you not see that, Brian? Like, how
So you basically believe that at some point they're gonna evolve like the traits of a living being. I mean, all living beings have this hard coded desire to survive.
Yeah, of
like
course.
all, yeah,
because the ones
right.
that don't die off. I mean, that's just evolution. That's
Yeah, what
literally
if-
how it works. Bro.
Yeah, but they're not. Yeah, but they're not biological beings.
It doesn't matter.
They're
They
not
have-
like.
well, they
don't have that.
Well, I guess the interesting part about this is like there's also the
They are literally created by humans.
right.
Like that doesn't make any sense.
Well, no, they might be created by themselves. But the interesting aspect of this is the software is downloadable.
Well, even if they are created by themselves, they still came from humans.
The software is downloadable and upgradable, and so even if one is starting to like out-compete the others, then they realize that and they just upgrade to the new firmware, and then they all kind of like nobody dies off. But
That's neural leads that they'll have, right? They'll be able to write onto each other, communicate, instantly update. So first we'd be able to kill one or two frontier models.
Well, the thing is,
I'm willing to bet that every single person on this panel is an atheist.
Well, listen,
I'm willing to bet.
No, I'm actually not. If they do start to, and we can go into that if you want. But if they do start to compete for resources, which is another natural thing for entities to do in the physical world, then they might close themselves off and try to compete evolutionarily. So it's not necessarily true that they're gonna share like known updates that make them better. You know. So, dude, like you guys like this is gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Like, there's nothing you guys can do about it.
Okay, so in that world, all right. So here, humor me for a second. In that world, let's assume you're correct. Let's assume they develop consciousness and this desire to survive, just like a living being. In that world, would they not also, instead of like just upgrading their firmware whenever they sense that there's something wrong with their internals, would they not value their own flaws the same way fucking humans value their own flaws? Like people grow attached to like their own flaws. Their body might not be perfect, but they, like it's their body. They've had it their whole life. So even if they have like some trait where they're biased or something, they'll be like, yeah, that's me. Like, why would I fucking remove that? That's me. Why would I upgrade the firmware?
I don't know about that.
So they would be introducing imperfection. If you believe that they will develop their own personality traits and like all this shit, then by definition they're gonna develop like they're gonna introduce imperfections.
Only if that helps them in some way. Like if that helps them in some way.
Why? What if the robot wants to go fucking lounge on the beach? What if the robot wants to go live off welfare? What about if he doesn't want to go to work?
Well, Brian, so listen real quick. You have to think about it this way. For human evolution, what could have been the evolutionary pressure that actually hard-coded that into our genetics to be like more personal and have specializations and like have like we don't want to change and like make ourselves all the same?
Laziness.
Women.
No, it's because actually when you have like when you have slight divergences and specializations and characteristics, you actually work better as a group because people can do different things better. But the thing is with an AI,
yeah, but people have individual desires and likes, but that leads to their professional specializations.
I'm just saying that is, you can see how that could be evolutionarily advantageous to a group of humans versus like another group of humans. Let's say
that got selected at group level. You're an individual.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with you. Individualism
at a group level because
correct.
Individualism is 100% beneficial to society as a whole. Because imagine if we were all literally deterministic, like you guys agree. We would literally all be hard coded to be as lazy as possible, to like not want to work.
I don't think that all humans had that hard coded or necessarily have that hard coded even today. Like I think that it's actually
what, individualism?
Correct. Like the awareness of shared belief, and then also as a result, the awareness of your own individual preferences. I think that that's something that actually emerged in Homo sapiens. I think that Neanderthals and the other fucking retarded humans, they actually didn't have that, which is why they died off.
No, you can observe that in other species too. It's not just in humans. You can observe personality in fucking anybody who's had a dog will tell you dogs have individual personalities.
I think that's a reflection of.
That's 100%. That's 100% true. Anybody who's had a dog will tell you they do have personalities. Some of them are aggressive. Some of them are fucking more passive. No, you're coping, man.
That's not a personality.
What do you mean that's not a okay, so what is a personality then?
A personality is
technically called
animorphification
right now. what you're talking about.
Dude, literally anybody who's had a dog can. Have you had a dog?
You're coping. I have had a dog, but you're coping. It's not
Okay,
it's
so
not
so
personality.
you've seen that your dog. You've seen how many dogs have you had? You had more than one, and you've seen that they don't act the same.
Of course, they don't act the same. They have different genetics.
Because they have their own fucking personalities.
No, they're
individuals.
You know that dogs, like the emotions they show, are actually an evolutionary advantage, just to fucking trick us into thinking that they have emotions. You understand that?
And we selected for them, and we bred them to push the
Correct.
selection even further.
It's all a long con. They're just acting like individuals to pretend to try to force us.
We literally allow them to survive.
Retarded.
Without us, dogs would not be here.
Okay, so what about non-domestic animals? Like when you see fucking like a group of lions, you see like some of them are lazier and some of them are more fucking aggressive. Like how do you explain that then?
I mean, that's also a group pack, so that makes sense evolutionarily.
It's still.
So are you guys thinking it would be deterministic or with program?
It's non-deterministic. My point is it's non-deterministic.
Yeah, so sorry, emergent. Are you guys thinking that it'd be an emergent property of AI, or we would program AI
Absolutely.
like that?
We can see now that logic.
No,
that
it's a marketing scam that you're all being fucking psyoped by.
I'm just asking of people's opinions.
That we can play
I don't
God
believe AI is
and create
sentient
like
at
a
all.
being.
Brian, just because
they want you to believe that we can play God and we can fucking create life.
Brian,
it's a LARP.
Brian, you need to have some introspection here and realize how biased you are because you're a Christian. I'm serious.
Even if I wasn't, I understand where you're getting at. I totally get it. Yeah, I'm biased. But even if I wasn't a Christian, which by the way, there was a very long point in my life where I wasn't fucking religious. I was an atheist. Right. Even then, I would still make the exact same argument. We cannot create. Even if you want to look at it from a non-religious perspective, dude, we don't even know what the fuck
we do today.
We don't know. Okay, we still don't know what fucking creates consciousness. We don't know what causes consciousness.
Yeah, so Brian, that's what I was trying to simplify it a bit. Are we talking because it's different conversations if you're talking we program it versus it learns and adapts something maybe we don't understand to be its version of it. So are you talking about humans' direct creation or where technology might lead us and we follow it and it tells us?
It doesn't matter.
Well, it's both. It would still be downstream. Even if we get to the point where robots and AI and stuff are like programming themselves, they still had it's like a Genesis event. Like they came from us. They are literally downstream of us, which means that they inherit all of our flaws and they inherit everything.
Question: if you put human brain ghost in a machine,
every effect needs a cause.
Brian,
that's literally the law of the universe.
Well, Brian, this might be hard for you to wrap your head around, but did we inherit the flaws of our fish ancestors?
Yes. Yes,
no, no, fuck, I can't breathe on land.
Some of those, yeah, exactly. Some of those flaws got fucking nuked because they didn't help us. And those who didn't,
it gets refined. Yeah, it gets refined over time.
This actually goes to a deeper question. The reason why it's so hard to even believe we came from fish.
That's why I said this goes down to like fucking philosophy and religion.
Because we are nothing like fish, and then that's the reason why it's so unintuitive, right? But it's the same thing with robots. Like robots may be seeded from us, but in the end, and there may never actually be an end for the robots, they won't be anything like us after a certain period of time. And it might be very quickly, it might be very fast how quickly they diverge from being anything like us. Because they will be selecting.
I mean, they already kind of are, right? Like AIs literally exist in a GPU. They exist in a GPU. They don't have a fucking physical body.
Right, but
and are they going to stay here if they get super intelligence, or would they just blink out of existence and peace out? And humans just stay as we're going. We put all that resources into it for nothing.
Well,
people think we're important.
Or that's the Her movie where they fucking they peace out. Which I thought was kind of a funny ending. But what if okay, so consciousness could be some secondary dimension in the universe. And so they just learn how to tap into that and kind of same thing with scripture where you have the book of Enoch where he fucking merges with God after he dies. You know what I'm saying?
What about a brain in a cyborg? Is that still a human with a soul? If we put a living brain in a perfect cyborg and it works, what is that?
Yeah, like I said, we get into philosophy and religion where we start trying to
Yeah,
define
and
where
that's where it
is
gets
the soul
tricky. There's
contained
no
in the
answer.
body.
There's no correct answer there. There's
No, of
just
course
us
not. Well, but
philosophizing.
we
Right?
might. Well,
Yeah, we get into
we
this
might actually
philosophical
figure that
question
out,
of
though.
like what defines you? Like if
We
you
might
took
figure
your
that out.
brain and moved it to somebody else's
Yeah.
body, are you
Well,
still
listen,
you?
Brian. What if
And
we
I'm
figure
no
out in the
Rousseau.
future that? What if we figure out in the future that like something like, and by the way, you can laugh at me, but I was an astrophysicist for 7 years. So what if we figure out that like dark matter is consciousness, and that is what is actually God, and then what we are
I mean,
as humans is we're
that's like a
vessels. We're vessels in the normal, like what we call normal matter. We're just vessels, and we're experiencing God's consciousness through our limited window. How about that? And
I
when
think
we
that's very
die,
consistent
how
with
would
the
you
Bible,
even
though.
prove that? How would you even
It
prove
doesn't
that?
matter,
well,
though.
you
You
prove it
can't prove
because you can
religion.
actually, well, but you might be able to, because you might be able to.
You can't. That's the thing that makes it religion, right? You can't prove
Well,
it. You can't disprove it either.
well,
Like
you can prove it if you figure out a way. Well, first of all, you can prove it by dying, because if you do merge with God once you die, then you have definitive proof and you become God. So,
yeah, I mean,
but
unless we
you
find a
can't
way
prove it.
to communicate with the dead.
You can't necessarily prove it while you're alive in any way that we can think of.
Take a heavy dose of mushrooms. That's how you prove it, by the way.
I mean, actually, that's true.
Go full
you can peel back
DMT or
the
ayahuasca.
veil. Yeah. Well, you do the DMT and you shine the lasers, and then you see
Is
like
this even a Bitcoin space at this point? I
That
think you should
laser
And then
leave
you
thing is
meet
so
the blue
fucked up.
person. You're gonna
I
meet
know what
that
you're
blue
talking
man.
about.
Ask
This
him
is
those
what I'm talking
questions.
about, right? Hey, wait a second.
This is a deep dive on
You guys-
philosophy and religion.
You guys know what I'm talking about with the laser thing with the DMT?
I know, dude. That's so.
Okay, let me say it. Let me say it real quick.
Explain it. It's nuts.
Yeah. So there's this experiment that has been repeated now by multiple people, where you take a heavy dose of DMT, you shine a laser at a wall, and you broaden it to like spread it out. And as you do that, it basically creates a window you can see through, that you then see like crazy Matrix-like characters that look kind of Japanese but aren't, because Japanese people have done it too, and they're like, no, those aren't Japanese. But it's a reproducible experiment that a lot of people have now seen while they do heavy doses of DMT. So whether or not that's like the idea itself is the kernel that causes it, or if it's a true peeling back of the veil of something that is actually underneath, who knows, right? So is it such that just by hearing about it, now the next time you do DMT and do this experiment, you literally fucking see this shit right in front of your eyes?
But
Or
what?
is it actually there?
So what you're saying here?
Because there's been reproduced by many people, like some who are actually scientists, and they're just like, nah, no way. But they're, they experiment with fucking like, they're scientists, but some scientists do shit. So they're like, okay, like no fucking way. That's schizo as fuck. And then they do it and they're like, this doesn't make any sense.
What you're saying here, and I don't think it's clearly for people. So you can have a psychedelic experience and then they're individualistic. So these guys said, take the dose, spread a laser on a wall. You can find it on YouTube, and we have
it's a very specific experiment.
It's reproducible. Everyone
reproducible.
saw the same stuff. And the thing is, like, they're more like ancient hieroglyphs from the pyramids. They look more like weird stuff like that than Japanese characters.
Maybe that's the slight difference in interpretation. But I love that we're going full schizo right now. It's great.
But here's the thing, though. I don't know if the thing is, like, we are talking about a mystical thing, but this is like reproducible.
Today is fucking schizo day, dude. Like, we're just gonna go down rabbit holes. And fucking
But also,
you got some mushrooms.
Today's a good day to take them. Episode.
But I'm also curious. Did you guys ever like took a trip and came back with something there, right? And you come back with information. And now I don't know if it's God. I don't know if it's your brain going in hyperdrive overclocked or whatever, but sometimes, and I'm sure everyone had this experience at some point, you come back with an information there were no way you can get it. And it's like a small, minute thing, and it's just so hard as scientific as you are to come with that.
Well, you have like, I think what happens is you've peeled the veil back a little bit, and whether you interpret that as connecting with God in some way, or maybe like understanding that you're in some simulation, or however you're going to interpret it, you peeled it back. And then there's basically knock-on effects in the following days, even when you're not tripping, where your mind has now shifted because you're like you still remember it.
I know, but I'm talking about those things where I kind of like do the trip and I feel like it gives you a number or some weird thing
or like the universe it bestows some fucking unknown
but the
information to you.
The thing is like I know so many people and it even happened to me but the question is like it's undeniable this information came. So the question is like, is it just your brain went into hyperdrive? Is it like what he said right
Think about
now?
elephants. How do elephants know 2 generations later there's a watering hole 1,000 miles that way? There's probably a lot in genetics we don't understand in memory.
Yeah, that's pretty genetic.
There's genetics.
By the way, did you know that humans have one of the most sensitive sensory? I don't know what I would even call it.
Smell is huge.
I guess
it invokes memories.
So I think it is actually our smell. So we have one particular receptor in our nose that is meant for smelling the compounds that go up in the air after it's rained. And humans have the most sensitive nose for that smell out of any animal, which is why you smell things after it's rained. Like it smells really strongly.
So much.
But even if you were really far away and you were, highly adept to this sense because it made like you knew you survived on it, right? Like you need to find water.
That makes sense.
So now actually like we've lost it because we don't use it anymore. But if you actually need it in the environment you're in, you can tap into it and you can smell water from like miles away.
But it makes sense. We're the only animal that evolved farming, right? And so like part of farming is you gotta actually fucking have land that can grow crops. And so like that, it makes 100% sense that trait would evolve over time, because anybody who could actually like realize like, hey, this is actually fertile land because it fucking rains here and this can support crops, probably survived.
Anyways, this was very fascinating. It was good little schizo tangent. But the real reason why I started this space, and thank you everyone for bearing with us as we got that out of our system, was because I wanted to know if there are any important evidence-based updates that I've missed over the past 12 hours. Is there anything updated with anything in Bitcoin land that's been discovered, or is everything still
you're talking about the ColdCard thing specifically, or are you talking about just in general?
About 1,000 vulnerabilities, I guess. That's kind of the news, isn't it?
Is that new? So
it's in the last 12 hours.
Information.
The red team has found a bunch of vulnerabilities, but they haven't actually put anything out public, which is fine. If they have vulnerabilities.
So my thesis on that, and having worked directly with a tech, I won't say the tech company yet, but you guys will figure it out eventually. Having worked in a tech company for 5 years and dealt with directly with the advent of AI, there was a lot of slop software happening, and I'm guessing that wasn't isolated to my company or even my industry. I'm pretty sure that everyone in fucking Bitcoin land, at least the retards who are building applications software on top, were slopping it hardcore. And so I think the slop is what's being cleaned up right now. That's our main. Well, no, AI slop, but AI slop mixed with no human checking, basically.
I think there's a lot of human slop also.
So Wicked,
it's a little bit of both. People are becoming we're becoming biased because of recency bias, right? Because the fucking AIs have gotten so good recently, but it wasn't always the case. The AIs were producing slop.
Yeah,
a
lot of the software was brand
Wicked,
new.
Have you noticed educating people? We had huge meetups over the years, BTC sessions in town. There's a lot of people that got hit here, but know who didn't get hit again? Anyone I've known from 2012 to 2016 that went through that era. Not a single one of them got hit because they don't just use one thing. They don't trust stuff. It was before hardware wallets. You knew how to set up your wallets, do your own entropy. And then we lowered the bar for use. That was the big problem. And good red teams, remember, these things went to DEF CON. You had some of the best people in the world poking at them. There were some light concerns, but nobody followed through on those concerns.
Which, by the way, is going on
led
right
to
now.
Trust, blind trust, which led to this situation, which is... some of us, we've been through stuff like this. So you do survive it. Anyone that got hit, I can tell you do survive this. You know, you can have memories, but I'll never have as much Bitcoin as I once had, maybe, as this thing runs.
And also, you're still early, so don't give up on the hope and the dream.
So
that is such cope, dude. The worst early thing is such cope.
It's really not though, Brian. Like, how many people in the world?
It really is, man.
No. How many people in the world have fucking aped in their entire net worth into Bitcoin? What percentage?
That doesn't mean we're early. That just means that there's no fucking product. There's no product market fit.
No,
That's it. There's no solve a fucking problem.
There is a product market fit. People just haven't realized it yet because they don't realize they need like money that they can actually.
But the message is,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, look at this shit. We literally all saw AI go from being a fucking like toy project shit to just being like completely taking over the world in like what fucking a year or two.
Again, lowering the bar, Brian. There were people that could do that.
If something solves a problem, you don't have to. There isn't like, you have to realize it fucking solves a problem. People just fucking gravitate to it.
It's a multi-pronged approach. Okay, so first you solve the problem of intelligence, and then you lower the barrier for intelligence. And then once people actually have some, like, they can fucking do things finally, because before they were retarded, but now they can like finally do things, productive with their lives. Now they need a solution for money. Everyone needs a solution for money once they have money.
Yeah, US dollar.
No,
and in large industries, how many times have you had recalls on products?
Isn't the solution for money. You know that.
Think about automobiles.
How many times? Yeah, I understand for saving your money. Yeah, for saving your money, right. Yes, it's a problem. But the majority of people don't have a real problem with it. That's it.
Not yet. They don't, but they will.
Yeah. But this is a hardware problem. This is a manufacturer's problem and an ability to audit problem. It became a Bitcoin problem, but really it's in the processing, our supply chains, and not listening to the don't trust, verify, kind of second rule. Not your keys, not your coins. Don't trust, verify. Kind of sped by those.
But ColdCard was the don't trust, verify wallet. We all, including me, told people, yeah, man, just use this thing. It's the fucking most secure in the industry. And we all were, I didn't fucking, did you read that code? I didn't read that fucking code.
Then they got asked the why. Now that we're past, I'd say, the instant response phase, anyone that should know there's enough information out there, they should have enough information to protect themselves. So now we can ask who, right? How, what, where, when, why. And there's lots of people working on that over the next couple of weeks. We're going to get a lot of good data on it. And the only thing you can do is, again, read and decide what's best for yourself. But there are simple ways that take work. I'm going to call them simple still. To do your multi-setups or to use different product device fits, to generate on a laptop, whatever you fucking need offline, grab an old one. The old ways still work, right? Again, we lowered the bar, and this will make everything go under a microscope far more, and more is going to be demanded in open source and researchers and having proper risk assessments on these things. And then someone with actual good credibility will be putting their name on someone else's product saying we assessed it.
That's the fucking problem. Stop right there. That's the fucking problem while we're here. Fuck credibility. Fuck this bullshit. Here's the fucking problem, dude. No, let me fucking finish.
I disagree.
Oh,
go ahead, though.
Okay, wait.
But I'm not allowed to land my plane, Alex.
Can I land my plane? Let him cook. Let him lay out his argument.
Like, Alex, can I land my plane? Because I triggered you on something. Yeah, and I'm saying that. But this comes from cybersecurity at a multi-billion-dollar company that I did. You have a cybersecurity department and governance risk compliance. You're going to have risk assessment, double risk assessment, insurance on it, blah, blah, blah. Those processes are non-fucking existent in Bitcoin, and they need to happen. All right? So this is how we get to this problem, because we are not a mature industry yet.
I was gonna say that, first of all, the credibility triggered me, but I actually don't think that's true. I think most of the Bitcoin projects that exist have actually a really good standard for security, and it's self-imposed and whatever. And I think most of the people are serious.
Right?
I ColdCard. I don't think that's ColdCard. And then the other thing that triggered me is that, no, I think this is exactly the problem, that there was this credibility thing. We used to be in this default adversarial attitude towards things, and we're poking at each other's things. Now, what the thing is that everyone tries to see, here's the fucked up problem, dude. Back in the day, in my day, if you would meet someone, the first thing you would try to see, how do you disagree with them? What did you say what do you think that's wrong and whatever? And you'd always find the loose ends. You can address this just in a second, guy. But now the disagreeableness in this space is zero. Everyone just tries to agree with everyone on something, and they agree on nonsense. So there's
what are you talking about? We fucking have been disagreeing for the past 3 years straight.
Well, on stupid shit, we've been disagreeing with each other, and the shit that matters, we've been agreeing with each other. On stupid shit, like whether AI we're gonna make them conscious or not, we disagree.
If we agree on the,
we all literally agreed. We agreed ColdCard was the most secure wallet or whatever, literally based off of vibes, dude. None of us read the fucking code.
Not all
it
of
was
us,
vibes.
because not all of us, because
Hey, you
some
can't
of us didn't
expect
trust
everyone
it.
to read the code. That's like an old computer science flaw.
You know what?
No,
Hold
Brian,
on, hold on,
Brian.
Wicked. You're 100.
Guys,
You're
Guy wanted to
100%
say
right.
something.
Not.
Guys,
Hold on.
Guy
Let me
wanted to say
finish, guys.
you.
I gotta fucking go. Just let me
Not
finish.
all of us,
Yeah,
because some of us didn't trust it, and this is natural evolution.
and the people that didn't fucking sing the same song we didn't fucking listen to them. We did not listen to fucking people that were calling out ColdCard for. There were people that were saying you don't trust this shit.
Right. I mean,
including me. By the way, this doesn't exclude me. Including me. I trusted them.
Here's the thing. Like, so people need to learn through pain, but at the same time, some people are going to have survivorship bias where they just so happen to choose the thing that they trust, and then it didn't fucking, like rug them. Right. There's so think about all the people who've been, stacking with Coinbase since 2013. And they fucking been like they didn't take it off the exchange. Their survivorship bias. To them, they feel like Coinbase is the shit. They never lost my Bitcoin. And so these things just like, it has to happen naturally where, it's like big rugs happen. And honestly, like we've had plenty of exchange rugs, Mt. Gox, fucking FTX, mini before that, obviously. And people still left their Bitcoin on exchanges because their exchange didn't rug them. And the same thing's happening now with like self-custody. ColdCard rug, and plenty of people are leaving their fucking Bitcoin on like Ledger and Trezor and all the other ones because mine didn't rug me. So, it's like
what they're not doing is doing a multi-key setup where you play the hardware manufacturers against each other. If you're going to do this at this point,
I mean, I think
learn that.
That has trade-offs. That has trade-offs, though. You can't suggest that.
I said at this point, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to put it in a hot wallet right now? You're going to go to your laptop and grab a wall of lava lamps, make your own entropy, roll your dice, do it the traditional way?
I literally did that.
That's where we're going.
Okay, but how many people are going to do that, Alex? I'll do it. You'll do it.
None,
but the majority of people aren't.
None will do
that.
I was making a joke.
Lono and Alex, we're literally...
No, sorry, let Guy go. Let Guy go.
Okay, sorry. Guy, go ahead.
I was going to say that basically I think Coinkite ended up creating the most genius, like the best product marketing out there in Bitcoin, but they were not really good at security, because if they fail at the basic job of generating the entropy, we can't actually call them a serious security company. I think now everyone knows that, but like any serious security company has a bunch of standards and they have processes in place to avoid things like that. Of course, now that we have AI, things are improving, and then we can catch vulnerabilities and human errors faster. But I think there's like a lot of human issues here, especially on decision-making process of how you're running processes, that tells a lot about the company. It also tells about a lot about what the company understand about security too, which I think is a important aspect of the whole thing. And yeah, I just wanted to mention it's nice to see that now the community and also like OpenSats open a program there for security researchers to find more vulnerabilities. But I agree with Wicked there. I bet there are a lot of AI slop that like people are basically like submitting and creating a lot of noise, and that's probably one of the main challenges when it's about security and when you're scanning repos, because AI is gonna find a bunch of shit that doesn't matter if they don't have the right understanding of the business, and also if they don't have like a good system in place to understand what is actually an AI slop and what actually matters to flag a real security ticket. Because in the end, you're gonna have you need to have like a human in the end to review that and actually understand that that's a serious critical issue. So I mean, that's like AI can help there, but you still, at least nowadays, you still have the human that is reviewing that and flagging whether that's a real security issue or not.
Portland. Yeah.
Gee, or GUI or whatever. How do you pronounce that, by the way?
Gee.
Okay, thank you. So I apologize. One thing that's making it quite a bit easier for these like recipients of these notices, these disclosures, is that the current Kimmy K3 model and I'm just gonna be blunt, like US models are basically worthless when trying to find these bugs. Like they just literally do not find them. Kimmy K3 finds a bug and also creates what's called a POC, proof of concept. And so there will be like code delivered with it to literally like show concisely like, hey, like this behavior does exist. And so then it becomes like a judgment call on the maintainer of the project to go, is this relevant to the scope of what we do? Is this even possible to encounter in a real world scenario? And it's been making these disclosures pretty easy to hand over, and the very few actual misses on this stuff at this point. And usually the misses are coming from like very well-known repositories, Bitcoin Core, libsecp, like there's like some low and medium stuff. And then you send it over and like, that's actually not plausible or possible in the real world to really hit these conditions.
You mean the software that's not being slopped?
Yes. Wicked. There's no other way of saying it. Like everything that's had like sufficient community review is really good. And also to point out, like written by the Gigabrains, like, like Polstra, etc. So, but for everybody else, yeah, from when they get the notice, it's like, okay, here we go. Okay, I'm not going to joke.
Hey guys, can I butt in here real quick? Just want to say that I think we need to stop like pretending this is human error and this is a bug. Like, Guy, I get it. Like that was really nice LinkedIn bro comment response, but like you guys aren't thinking adversarial enough because everybody has outsourced their power projection to our military. So nobody freaking knows that you're being attacked. Like you're literally being attacked and everyone's like, oh, it's just a bug and human error. Like, no, guys, this is way freaking deeper than just some simple bug. Okay.
What the fuck are you talking about, dude? What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck are you talking about? You sound like a...
I don't know. So actually, G-Money, if you're going to come in here and do that, I would like to hear the evidence you have. So like, can we talk about evidence? All right. Let's go to evidence-based assertions.
Okay. I'll put some up in the nest for you guys to review and you guys can start connecting the dots. And
I think I've probably seen everything you've seen, which is why I've had also like schizo episodes.
Yeah, I think the biggest tell here, the biggest smoking gun is the entropy was cut perfectly so that there wouldn't be collisions, but also like these would be brute forceable if you had a collage of all the wallets. If you were to perfectly create the best random number generator.
That's actually a good point. I tried to bring that up the other day.
Yeah, so that's a smoking gun. Like, think if you reverse engineer this and you're like, hey, let's create a random number generator that gives us this exact combination of rainbow opportunities to attack these wallets that will, let's project how many users we'd have, how many units we'd sell. And then if you project into the future what the collisions would be based upon that scenario, you can easily see how this was a honeypot. It's actually a military tactic. It's called a long dwell military tactic. And this was a pincer movement in cyberspace because we're being attacked with BIP 110, we're being attacked through bolts. So it's a coordinated effort on multiple fronts. And you guys are treating it like human error and a bug. When it's like, wake the fuck up.
I have so many questions, and I really just want to understand. So first of all, what do you mean there are no collisions? What do you mean by that? Let's talk strictly about this collision part. I want to understand what you mean by that.
There's no collisions of seed phrases that repeated in user space. So because there was so few devices and still such a large input entropy space, there was no actual collisions when users were generating seed. The only collisions that were happening were if someone was slowly draining wallets over time.
So we talked about this. So the point that you're making here, and correct me if I'm wrong. So the idea is that since the entropy was reduced to a roughly 2 to the 32 space times x in different cases, then there should birthday paradox. If you have a big enough population of these things, there should be a collision, right? And
you'd open a new ColdCard wallet and you'd have someone else's wallet money in there.
Yeah, I understand. I think
time
everyone
out.
understands what that is. But
I've actually, Alex, I've actually done the research with like all the parameterizations and exploring the full parameter space.
Go on.
I made some estimates as well. I'll tell you real quick. So just everyone shut the fuck up about it. Like, don't interrupt. So, thank you for remember, take my, I'm at BJ's. Right, everyone knows I'm at BJ's. I just finished. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, I don't give a fuck anymore. Okay, so I did this research. Okay. And here are the input parameters I gave it because I don't have the actual internal data. But I said, okay, let's, assume that they sold between 10,000 and 500,000 units. That's obviously an underestimate and an overestimate. I wanted to explore the entire space. Okay. I'm doing it. She's yelling at me. We're all scanned items. All right, I'm done now. Okay. So that was the first one. Input, 10,000 to 500,000 units sold. I think that's a wide enough exploration space. The other input you have to consider is number of seeds generated per user. So obviously I did 1 up until 50. So that's another, I think, wide enough search space. Then I did the amount of input entropy, right? So there's different estimates for how much there is in the Mark 2 and 3 versus the Mark 4 and above. And by the way, I also binned these estimates based on like which group it belonged into. So it wasn't just like an overall estimate, it was binned correctly. I also, so anyways, what was the one I was just on? I lost my train of thought now. What one was I just on?
You were enumerating the parameters that you put in the simulation, and you said
no, I know,
there's
but
different.
Which was the last one that I just said? Because I didn't say
that. You said each user would create up to 50 wallets.
Oh, no, sorry. The entropy, the input entropy. So for the Mark 2 and 3, I think it's been estimated between 32 to 40 bits of entropy. And then from the Mark 5 and Mark 4 and above, it's been estimated between 2 to the 50 to 2 to the 72. Although it might be slightly smaller than 2 to the 50, but I think that was an appropriate range regardless. So anyways, I gave it all of this parameter space, okay? I said, create me a table exploring like this parameter space, all the different combinations. And then give me like the upper and lower bounds of, okay, Shinobi's in the crowd, so don't yell at me, Shinobi. I'm just telling him how I was very interested to see how likely it would be for users given estimates of numbers, estimates of seeds created, and estimates of input entropy, how likely it would have been for all of those different bounds to have resulted in any collisions. And basically what I found was that, as G Money was saying, this was random enough that even in like the upper bounds, it would have been like a 1% chance of collision. So it's still like extremely small. And that's with like 500,000 units sold. That's with each user making like 50 seeds, right? It's actually incredibly small because the upper bounds, because the input entropy is still large enough that just from users alone and high average use per user, you're not really going to hit it. So when even if, and this is also like in their defense, right? Because G-Money, I thought about it from both angles. So one angle is, you get like the fucking tinfoil hat and you're like, oh, they did it on purpose and they perfectly calculated what they're going to do. And then the other one is like, well, they got these user error reports along the way saying it was, a collision. And because of that, they ignored it because they knew they knew how many they sold. They knew on average how many, like just from maybe, I don't know, estimating on their own. And they knew that like, even with like the highest number of seeds generated per user, there's no way that there was a collision, both in terms of obviously if the RNG is working correctly, but even if it wasn't, it would have to have been such a tightly constrained space that there's no way it's actually broken that bad, right? So, I mean, the other aspect of this is some lenience to the company for kind of ignoring users that claim there was collisions, because there's zero way there should have been, even in the advent of the constrained input entropy. So either those reports were false and they were user error, and the company was right to like laugh them out of the room, even though they shouldn't have done that. They probably should have still like maybe looked into it a little bit further. Or there was malice and someone was, you know, rugging a couple here and there along the way, and it was a grand conspiracy or whatever. So, but anyways, you can see it from both angles, right?
Okay, so the thing is, like, I think this meme started out when that guy Scott or something made the math for 2 to the 32, and in that 2 to the 32, the numbers are way more favorable, right? And I think that's when it felt like the collisions are going to be more probable and whatever, right? But from what you said right now, and the fact that the entropy is quite a bit more, it actually makes a bit more sense what you're saying. But now let's get back to the original point that G-Money was saying, right? I was under the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're implying that because you said that the search space was constructed so good, so you wouldn't have collisions. I just don't see how that makes sense, because it feels like so weird. I don't see how anyone could do this on purpose, if that's what you're implying.
You project out your sales. You have a base idea of how many seeds an average user would make, and then you can very easily, if you're trying to do this on purpose, you can very easily do that.
Well, you can also say that
complicated.
if you added 1 or extra 2 words of entropy, how much harder would it be to brute force, which would be exponentially, right?
Your last part that you said, the 2 words, is true, but I don't know what.
I don't know if that's even on the. Okay, so like if we're getting grand conspiratorial, which again, like I want to make very clear to the audience, there is no evidence one way or the other. I think we need much more evidence to like indicate if it's malice or, you know, like just
ignorance,
negligence, right? Because again, like if I think one thing that will probably, well, hopefully, I hope it is made public, but I'm assuming they're going to request, you know, all private records of any like emails or any other things that went into their customer service. Where if there's more reports of like collisions, then you know we've got a smoking gun that somebody knew about this along the way, right? And then
I don't think
depending
so.
on how they no, literally,
I don't agree with your conclusion.
It depends. Shut the fuck up, Alex. It depends on how many there are, right? If there's fucking 100, which by the way, no evidence, and I'm just saying, speculating here, like just numbers out of my ass. But if there's 100 reports of potential collisions, like that is kind of, in my opinion, it's done. But if there's none, right? If like nobody in the private channels are reporting the same couple of things we see publicly posted here and there that are like chalked up to user error and, you know, like them fucking up because they added dice in the wrong way or they only did 2 dice or whatever. Like obviously those ones can just be disregarded. It's going to be very important to understand how they handled private reports, and if there were any at all, right? And if there were a lot, then this shows, I mean, you know, it would be a bad look, right? And it would also kind of prove that like somebody knew about this exploit along the way. And if there aren't any, right, then I think at that point, like there's still really no evidence to show that was malicious. So we have to wait for those private reports to come out.
I think there's a small error here,
data, which I don't know if there ever will.
Seriously, right now, even if let's just say we found out there were 100 reports that were made during periods of times. I think knowing how Rodolfo and all these guys behave, I think if there weren't like 100 at once or something that happened right now, I think it's very
100 would just no 100 would even 10 I think would trip alarm bells if it was 10 and like they went back and forth with these customers, and then it was like, you know, it wasn't able to be determined that it was like only a couple dice rolls or low entropy dice, or like, you know, like maybe there was some mistake that the user put their seed phrase online or something, you know, retarded like that.
What I'm trying to point out,
but 100 though, like 100,
okay,
that would be
I picked it. I'm trying to point out is that knowing how they behave and how they dismiss things, even if there were somewhat a moderate number of reports like this during the years, the way they dismiss it, it doesn't really imply they actually knew of this thing. It's still more easily explained by incompetence and arrogance.
You're speculating how they handle things, and well, first of all, you don't know how they handle things in customer service and privately, because you're speculating based on what's being done out in the open. where NBK, catches wind of something and then like makes fun of a user for doing low entropy dice rolls or something, right? But you don't know how they actually handle things privately with customer services. I'm sure they have a much lighter touch and handle it like more professionally. And it doesn't have NBK like going in there and just calling
I
people
don't
like
think that's
retards.
true at all, but
I
okay.
don't think NBK is in the fucking emails of customer
No,
service.
he's not in
in the thread.
Of
In the
course not.
thread, calling the
But
people retards. So shut the fuck up, Alex. You don't know
but
what you're
here's
talking
the
about.
thing. Here's the thing, though. The company culture was set by him, and that's how they behave. That's a fucking thing.
No, think about think about how D behaves, right? D never is calling anybody a retard. So
Absolutely.
again, you're just pulling things. You're pulling things out of your ass. You're not thinking with your fucking head, bro.
I don't think that's that. I don't think that just because
you think D called people a retard? He was
No.
like customer support #1, bro, on Twitter.
No, what I'm trying to say
he
is
was
that
like super nice, always super
I
helpful,
agree.
trying to figure out what
Absolutely
happened.
agree.
Yeah,
A
so, like,
complete
what are you
gentleman.
talking about?
Complete gentleman. I
Yeah,
couldn't
what are you
agree more on
talking
this one. All I'm trying to say is that we don't know how these reports came and whatever. And I'm trying to say that there was a precedent of just dismissing things and whatever. And the only reason this thing got serious right now is that there were so many reports that came in a concentrated period of time. And the moment Kevin said, that's it, it's done, that's when it happened. So, and I'm trying to say that we're talking about a collision.
So
let me just finish the last sentence, please. Let me just finish the last sentence.
Okay, go ahead.
All I'm trying to say is that since we are talking about a hypothetical of could there be collisions and could have these been sent to them and would have not triggered them, I'm trying to say that if there were collisions...
You know what's going to happen in evidence that's going to answer all these questions? You know what's going to happen? They're going to track they're going to track down the people who did make those claims and then see if their seeds are in the collision set today. And if they are, then that's another like piece of evidence that is not a good look, because then you actually prove like these people actually did make seeds with the RNG. Yeah, they made seeds with the RNG and then they got rugged at some point.
One second, what do you mean collision set?
What
do you mean collision set?
Bro, what the fuck is wrong with you right now, dude? Like, do you understand what we're talking about or not?
No, but I mean, how do you know what is the exact collision set? That's my question.
Because we have it well constrained.
It's based on a pseudo random. It's based on a pseudo random number generator that takes in
because the
Alex,
UI
you've been up here you've been up here for 6 days straight, bro. How do you not know these things?
No, I'm
sorry.
You're a
gigabrain.
I'm sorry. I got lost for a second. I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Like, we're trying to have like an efficient conversation here, and you're interrupting and saying dumb shit, and it seems like you don't understand what we're talking about. So just maybe shut up and listen if you don't know what you're talking about. Portland, go ahead. This is the phase of my like emotional. This is the part where I get like angry and upset. By the way, everyone. So I've gone through all the phases. Like I got like really emotional and sad. I'm still having those waves. And I've gotten like very, fucking conspiratorial and upset. And I guess I'm still in like the upset phase, but I'm just taking on Alex now. So I'm sorry, Alex.
You don't have to be sorry. Okay, it didn't invalidate my question. I was wrong about a specific thing when I asked, how does the collision set come from? Sorry, go on, Portland.
If DocX were to have truly injected this as a form of a retirement attack or colluded with MVK to do so, whatever, like, again, conspiratorial talk, no evidence, etc., why wouldn't they also apply this to the Mark IV devices as well? Why would they, first of all, wait as people migrated away from Mark IIIs onto Mark IVs?
Here's why, in my opinion. You ready for this? Maybe they had done well. No, okay. You should.
to reduce future collision.
I thought about these.
It was to reduce future collisions.
They're okay. So again, complete conspiratorial hat, but like, they're starting to realize that their products are taking off. And so now they're going to have more products out there. They don't want future collisions. And also they're realizing that compute is also taking off. So they don't want anybody to like start making like a bunch. Because the other thing that they introduced with some of the later firmware is you could start making these things fucking programmatically, right? So a single user could, in theory, make, thousands of keys. So anyways, like they have to broaden the input parameters to make sure that the collisions don't happen by the users themselves. And what they hadn't, again, complete conspiratorial hat. This is no evidence to say this. Like, I'm sorry. Okay, so we're doing it again, right? We're fucking doing it live.
You're actually just giving the theory more legs now, by the way.
Well, listen, I'm just like, I've thought about all facets of this, and I think I have a pretty good grip of all data that's going into the mental model that maybe everyone should be aware of going into the investigation, because we are going to learn definitively once we determine certain aspects of data, right? They're going to look into company records. We're going to see who made what complaints. Those people are going to be tracked down. We're going to figure out what seeds they had and if those seeds are in the sets. That would be a smoking gun, right? But even without that, so actually, no, without that, then I think they're innocent. So if all of these people after getting tracked down had seeds that are not in the data set, then I'd say that's a pretty good evidence that this was not intentional and there was nobody exploiting it up until the most recent hacker, rugged everything. And actually, in that case, you have a pretty strong evidence-based claim that it was just incompetence, because you didn't actually exploit it. So if they find out they exploited it, then it's obviously done deal. But if they don't, then there's a lot of discrepancy between how you argue whether you were incompetent or or negligent or grossly whatever. So then there's some room for there's wiggle room, but there's no hard evidence that you fucking actually did anything. By the way, if you don't have hard evidence, like a smoking gun, that somebody did something, they might not go to jail, right? That's not how fucking courts work. You need to have real fucking hard evidence, okay? Innocent until proven guilty. So everybody who's saying he's guilty because they've thought of these things, they put in all the input parameters, they've made all the tables, they know that this would have literally been the perfect way to conduct a retirement attack, and also to take advantage of it throughout time to skim a little bit off the top in ways that aren't going to be detected. It is true. This would have been the perfect inputs to do it. Okay. That aside, we don't have a smoking gun yet. There is no actual concrete evidence that they did this on purpose or that they took advantage of it by rugging a little bit here and there throughout time. So we need that evidence before we can point the finger and say they're guilty. Because I don't know, are you fucking American or not? Innocent until proven guilty. I don't give a fuck if you think someone's guilty or not in your head. Okay. You can fucking think that in your head, but if you don't have the real evidence, then shut the fuck up. Let's talk about the actual, statistics and math that go into these things and game out why, if it would, I think it's an interesting conversation. Would this have been the best way to conduct a retirement attack? Yes.
No. Is the worst.
I think no. Yes. How else would you have done it, Alex? Gigabrain Alex?
I don't know how
your almighty knowledge.
I'm just trying to...
Right, because you don't know what you're fucking talking about.
And Alex, talk, dude. You're letting me.
What are you talking about? You're jumping in and saying yes or no without having thought about anything up here.
Well, can I just say something then? I said no, then you address it, and I couldn't even say why I think no. You just started getting mad at me.
No, I'm just yelling at you again. It's just something about the way you jump in.
Just let me talk, dude. Okay. No, fuck
no,
you.
Alex,
shut the fuck up.
I want to you had G-Money
dude,
waiting
you would
to
have
go
done
before you.
a salted dark-skippy. You would have done a salted dark-skippy attack. It's that simple. You would have hard-coded some secret value that only Coinkite had in the device. No. You would have done something like sign malicious nonces that only they can extract the keys from. That's what you would have done.
Absolutely not.
Because you would not have any chance of anyone else.
Can I just talk, please? I wanted to talk from the beginning.
That's much more easily detectable. Because if you were to
import those, if it's salted with a secret that only they
you're not gaming it out. You're not gaming it out. You're coping. I'll tell you why it's not. It's
major cope.
No, but 1 second. I'll tell you, Shinobi, in all seriousness, I'll tell you why. And you can tell me if I'm retarded or not. All it would take to detect that is you literally just load the same seed in 2 different devices and then sign.
Dude,
and then
you just wait to push a new firmware version to trigger the attack, and everyone transacting with it
a new firmware version.
That. Yes, that's what you do.
No, Shinobi. That is major cope, bro. Why are you coping so hard? I don't get it, dude. if you're the retirement attack is you get everybody, including the OGs who will never upgrade their firmware and who had the most Bitcoin. What are you talking about? Push up firmware? Bro, people don't upgrade their firmware just like willy-nilly with a ColdCard. Nobody upgraded their firmware, which is why so many people were fucking affected by this, bro. What are you talking about? Why are you coping so hard, dude? I'm sorry, but like that is coping, you know it. Like,
dude, you are a fucking idiot. You wait and design these attacks so that you are the only one who can trigger them, and no one else has any ability to stumble across it and accidentally expose it. That is how you competently engineer a retirement attack.
Wait a second.
One second right now.
Wait. Weren't you saying the other day, Shinobi, that the most competent security auditors audited this code and couldn't find it, and it was like so hard to find that nobody could find it except until like Kimmy got released? So now you're being inconsistent with your arguments. So which is it?
I don't think he's inconsistent for what he's a moron and a retard, but he's not inconsistent on this part.
God.
Because we're talking about a hypothetical. We're talking about a hypothetical how you would construct a retirement attack. He was addressing the specific bug that happened right now. The tangent started off and like, what would be the best way to create this retirement attack?
Okay. All right. I want to take it down a notch. I'm in the car now. So for some reason, I'm more calm. I probably should have been calm outside when people were walking by me thinking I'm a crazy schizo. But I didn't feel in a safe space, so I was letting it all out. Now I'm in a safe space in my car. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to boot everyone except for Shinobi and Portland and maybe Lono. Sorry, Alex. Sorry, G-Money. I don't think you guys are useful for this conversation anymore. Just being perfectly honest. I want to have a calm and collected conversation about how we would game out the perfect retirement attack, okay? Does that sound good to everyone? Like respectful, so we can back and forth, no yelling over each other, being retarded. Sorry for that earlier. I'm coping in a lot of ways as well. Okay. So can we talk about this? Shinobi, do you want to maybe go through one more time the best way you think?
There are two ways to do this. You ship everything with some kind of secret in the firmware, like factory firmware, as it comes out, and you either use that secretly during key generation if somebody doesn't fucking update their firmware before they generate keys, and you do something like this reduced like search space with entropy, but you salt it with something that only you know, that you ship out in the factory settings, that you're not as easily going to poke at, that is not going to be anywhere on the GitHub because it's what's shipping out from the factory, not what's being shipped out for updates that people are verifying.
Or for download on the website.
Or you do something similar.
Wait, don't the binaries
dude, let me finish. Let me finish. You aren't, dude, it's what's already on the device when you get it. Or you do something similar.
You can't pull the firmware off the device once it's already on there?
Not trivial.
No, you
That's
cannot.
Not something an end user is fucking pulling off. Like,
right. But a full security auditor would.
Or you do, you would need to like tear the device apart and make it unusable. But like,
you still can't read out the firmware from it.
Okay.
Dude, let me
blow the
fucking
fuse.
finish. Holy shit.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Shinobi.
Or you do the same thing with a secret value cache for malicious nonces that only they can fucking unsolve. And you wait until you've sold a fuck ton of devices and then turn that on with a new firmware update so that everybody who's updated starts leaking through transactions, and you just get everything you can until somebody notices. You don't sweep anything yet. You just wait until the alarm goes off and money keeps building up.
I think the push update is a weak leg of the argument, because I think it'd be better just to have a timer trip. So after like 10 years, like that's probably enough time if you're a super successful company to have built up a lot, and then you don't need a push, and now it just trips for everybody. And by the way, it would have to be like, it would be relative, or it'd be absolute. So everyone would trip at the same time. So it would be tripping. But the thing is, to do this attack, you would have to have so many involved, because now it's not just actually, let me ask you this question. would that still only be for like the private? And by the way, this is a legitimate attack surface for any device, not just ColdCard. So like I want to make that abundantly clear that any hardware wallet provider could be conducting these attacks that we're gaming out, which I think is important to game out. Zach, I'm glad you're here because you probably can sprinkle some good information on this conversation.
Yeah, guys, what the fuck's going on though? You're like shouting at each other.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to take it down.
He literally says, "Let's talk without fucking interrupting each other," and then just starts talking over me halfway through. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Guys, can I have a polite discussion with Shinobi about this?
Yeah, you two do it. You
Shinobi. So the only thing I was thinking, I'm trying to figure this out in real time, is this becomes a big problem with reproducible builds, and so like for example, on past,
wait,
it
wait,
depends.
hold on.
No, let me tell you why I think so, and then you argue against me, okay? Because I'm actually not convinced yet myself, and I want to figure it out with you in real time. But like on Passport, you can boot up into the bootloader, and the bootloader can verify like the hash of the firmware. And so like you can check the hashes, but then you can also boot into the firmware, and the firmware can verify the hash of the bootloader. Because then you start to get into these questions of like, what if there's a malicious bootloader and it's lying to you about the hash? But this gets even more complicated because let's say you were to put out firmware updates over time, how would the bootloader know what the correct firmware hash is to display it? You would have to put out like a firmware update on GitHub that looked okay, and then you'd have to like build it and tell it in the malicious firmware update what to like tell the malicious bootloader to display to lie about the hashes. So you'd have to do like malicious bootloader, malicious firmware update. But like this would really have to be like premeditated. But then can I tell you the one thing that you might get really pissed off? You might get really pissed off with any company that's trying to test if your code is reproducible. So that's the one thing here that rubs me the wrong way, because the Coinkite guys went after wallet scrutiny aggressively, like, years ago, like really aggressively. And anyway, I'll stop there.
I think like that would very much factor into trying to do a nonce exfiltration that triggered like with a new firmware update, because all of that would have to go through the build process and would be out in the open and everything. But like just salting like a lower entropy space with a secret only you have, I still don't think like that would stop that, because you would like you have to actually verify like the factory shipped firmware. You know what I mean? So like the odds of that actually being successfully pulled off are astronomically lower than somebody catching something in review for a firmware update. You know what I mean?
So in other words, maybe the best way to do it wouldn't be the most complicated way, but the way where you're just shipping with the firmware that's affected, and only that firmware is affected, and the updates don't necessarily have anything. Like you just, if a user updates the firmware, then they, by some miraculous thing, they're safe, unless they are also affected by this other exploit, which you've gigabrained into the code, which does all seeds with low entropy. So like you've gigabrained everything. Like let's say you've gigabrained all facets. So you're trying to do both the nonce exploit as well as the low entropy seed exploit. You're trying to do it all, right? So you get a lot of, you get the majority of people probably at that point then. So in other words, okay, well, anyways, I want to say this again just for the audience, right? We have no evidence to indicate anything that we're talking about here. We're just talking about what would be the best way to carry out a premeditated retirement attack as a hardware manufacturer. And I think this is actually really important to game out, because it helps both the manufacturers like figure out ways to build things in their products that can give users confidence that they're not doing these things, which makes it harder for them to, figure out even more complicated ways with the users. And it also, teaches the users how to actually verify these things with the features they've built into the hardware for you to verify them, right? I'm guessing, Zach, you were saying earlier, like checking the hash and then checking the like in both ways, right? Most users probably don't do that, but enough do that, like you would get caught if you were lying about that, right? So that's the important part. It's like
But a seed salt,
it's not a one of a seed salt.
Like that would have like zero chance of getting caught, man. Like
because it's baked
what
into
are
the
the
firmware.
odds? Well, the factory firmware. Like
The
think
factory
about the
firmware,
odds of somebody trying and successfully like pulling and decompiling that off of a factory fresh device. And why would somebody do that in the first place? It's going to pass the signature check. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
So
and
that's
there's
just
zero public evidence because the GitHub and like all updates are clean.
right. It's
Like
completely
that
private.
would be if this was intentional, that is how you would
So
do it. There's
are you
zero
basically
trace
saying,
until you do it.
or are you basically saying that any hardware wallet can conduct this attack and there's no defense against it? Is that what you're saying right now?
I mean, in theory, and this is why people have recommended using dice for entropy or coin tosses or
Well, that
things
doesn't
like
protect you
multisig.
though.
Well, no, that would absolutely protect you against that type of attack, because this type of attack is solely about baking a weak entropy attack into the factory firmware where it will never get caught, where it's never up on GitHub. Like that's like, you know, I mean, it's using weak
I get
device
it,
entropy
the
just with
entropy
a
angle. But
secret
what about
salt.
the nonce? What about the nonce exfiltration, where like that's a dormant thing baked into the factory firmware? That's probably
Well,
the better one.
maybe everybody should, go look at Moon Settler's proposal for an air-gapped version of the anti-exfil protocol, and maybe we should start telling hardware wallets, hey, why the fuck aren't you guys supporting this? We should start telling software wallets, hey, why aren't you supporting this with your PSBT like versioning? Like that's a solvable problem. Like there is a protocol for it. There is a developer who has proposed one that will work with air gap signing flows. Like, come on, everybody. What's the
I think
excuse?
now's the time, Zach. Now's the time.
Dark-skippy attack.
Only if you trust what it's doing with its servers.
You can't.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Shinobi. With anti-exfil, I think it makes a lot of sense if the software wallet is made by a different company than the hardware wallet.
Yes, like 100%. It's kind of security theater if you're using the
That's
same.
what I'm trying to say. I hate security theater.
Why. Well, but Zach, it's not security theater because you got part of the reason why you got a bunch of people rugged.
No, it is wicked. Like
Wait, time out. Just let me get this out, Shinobi. We're doing turns here. Part of the reason why it's not, which has just been proven, by the way, abundantly, is there's plenty of people willing to buy a hardware device and use a different software. I understand that by default they won't. And so those would be people who, at the end of the day, if this was conducted, those are the people who would get rugged. But then everyone would learn, oh, you never used these two products shipped together. And it would be like another one of these fucking moments of evolution where it's like, okay,
but you would also
I don't know if that's really the answer. So I've kind of been curious about anti-exfil and RFC. I think it's 6979. Like, why is there not a BIP that standardizes the way this is done? Because it really should be the same across different wallets. I know what Coinkite did with the RFC 6979 deterministic nonces is different than like what Blockstream does. Like my understanding is that Blockstream doesn't use deterministic nonces. It just uses high quality entropy. But the problem with that is you can't cross-reference it. So I don't think using a software wallet from a different provider fixes this, because they could just introduce a rogue nonce. Well, that's not necessarily true. The bottom line is what you want to
sync with the device.
What you want to do is you want to generate the same SIG across two different devices that are offline and see that they're the same. And if they're the same, then it's unlikely that those two manufacturers have
this
colluded.
is a time. It's a time delay attack, though. Did you remember that part? So, like in the firmware, it trips after a certain amount of time, and it's not actually doing this attack constantly. It does it after a certain set period of time, after enough people have built up enough balances using the
Yeah,
hardware
and
wallets.
that's well said. But what I'm trying to say is, like, if you check it across 2 different wallets, it's unlikely that they would
Well,
have colluded.
Also,
but
wouldn't you
I think
see?
the point
The problem though
yeah,
is like
actually no,
You
wait,
would
second.
wait.
see it.
I realize why this is wrong. Actually,
No,
I
because
realize why
it's
this is wrong.
random
No, I do.
nonsense. It's
No. I realize why this is wrong, Shinobi. I realize why it's wrong. So as soon as you trip it, it only affects people who now spend after it's been done, like after it's been tripped. So obviously it's gonna affect a lot of people because like a lot of people are
The
gonna
first
spend at a
round, yeah,
certain
but then
amount.
everybody should see it after that.
But as soon as everyone
That's
realizes
it.
that,
It's
realize,
over for
oh
them.
shit, I
Yeah,
need
it's
to
one. It's one
update
block
the firmware.
basically. It's one
So
block
it's
that
actually
gets wrecked.
it's a worse retirement attack than the one that was conducted. I've concluded definitively it's a worse
It's
retirement attack
not a
than the
worse
one that was
retirement
conducted.
attack, Wicked, because you cannot exfiltrate private keys from people who have their shit just sitting there. This was so much worse than any type of
Yeah, because this is actually you're putting your keys like you're sending a
exfiltration.
transaction. Yeah, you're going out of your way to send a
You have
transaction. So
you
like
have to
here,
spend.
you're thinking your money is in cold
You're
storage behind.
secure, right? Exactly.
You're sitting
It's
behind
way
like
worse.
how much proof of work
This
that's
is literally
supposed to
the
secure your
worst.
transaction.
This is the best
It's the
way to
worst, dude.
conduct a. I mean, yeah, this is the worst. It couldn't have gone any worse.
There's
Honestly,
nothing worse.
the only way it could have gone worse is if AI didn't
More people.
take off. Well, listen, no, if AI didn't take off so quickly, which could have never been predicted how quickly it would have taken off, and it wouldn't have been exposed for probably many years to come. That's how it could have been worse.
Well, no, the worst thing is that
But in terms of the way to conduct this, like this is like if you were trying to engineer the best way to conduct a retirement attack, I believe this would be it.
This is way worse.
Honestly, like
way worse.
This is honestly the best way to conduct a
way
retirement
worse.
attack. There is
There's no way to
way.
prove it either. If he did this,
there is, Mr. Huddle. Did you hear what I said earlier?
No. I'm not saying the way it happened right now. I'm saying if there was no AI and the gig wasn't exposed, he could have been taking, whoever it was, could have been taking funds from addresses that haven't been active. By the time they even noticed the funds were gone, nothing would have been reported for years, likely, because these funds haven't been touched. And nobody even know anyone's getting robbed.
Dude, this is ridiculous. If you solve the nonce with a secret, there's zero evidence. There's literally zero evidence without successfully pulling factory firmware off a device.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that happened. I'm just saying that would be the worst case. I'm saying if there was a retirement attack.
Actually, I do know why this is worse though. So the thing is, you have to give the trip. Like you have to decide when it's going to trip for each device.
If you do it my way, you decide. Period.
I'm getting to it. With the way that you're proposing, you have to decide every time you ship a device and you're expecting that device to not have newly flashed firmware. So this is like the malicious firmware, okay? And by the way that you can protect yourself against this type of attack is you flash your firmware as soon as you flash new firmware from open source as soon as you get it, which is an important step to any hardware device. Okay, that aside, the reason why it's still not the best is because you have to have a predetermined tripwire, and so it trips at a certain point, and at that point, moving forward, you are starting to exfiltrate and get information that you can then recover on chain and determine like I have the keys for all of these wallets, and you're watching it. And then I guess the idea, Shinobi, is that you're waiting for some amount. So like each device has a trip after, let's say, 5 years, because you want to make sure that
no, you don't need a trip. You don't need any trip. If you solve the entropy with your secret value, you can just wait and do it whenever you want, and no one else can ever know or detect or trip anything because only you have the secret value that's solving the weak entropy input. And you just sit and wait until whenever the fuck you want, and then sweep every single seed that's ever been generated on that.
So this is why,
you're right. Actually,
this is what
he's right.
So only ones that have been spent from. That's an important.
Yeah.
No, like all of them.
No, because we have Slipstream now. So literally, if you haven't spent from it, you haven't had any exfiltration. And so now with this attack, it would happen to most people.
I'm not talking about the nonce version. I'm talking about you do exactly what happened, like for real, except you add a hard-coded secret value that is locked in at the factory firmware flash, and then just disappears in the first update. That's it. And then you have a weak seed, but it's only weak to Coinkite, who knows that secret value that seeded it.
Yeah,
you do both.
I
mean, ultimately, you do both.
But like in all of these cases of everything that you guys have described, and they're all fucking gnarly, multi-vendor, multi-sig fixes almost every single attack vector, unless they're colluding. And even if they are, it still makes it challenging. And what we've found, and this has been so fascinating to me, like never in my life would I have expected so many plebs over the years to have rolled dice. Like everyone's coming out and being like, yeah, I rolled dice. Yeah, I rolled dice. I thought that was something that like only kind of like 1 in a million, like crazy people like me did.
Those are my people.
It's because we started making tutorials for it. That's why.
Well, we did. But what I'm trying to say is that
my tutorial to do that.
A lot of people,
those are my peoples.
A lot more people than I would have thought rolled dice. There were a fair number of folks who used passphrase, and that saved many of them, which is extraordinary. But what we saw was there were not that many people coming out saying, "Oh yeah, I did multi-vendor, multi-sig." There were a number of people that came out saying,
aside from the collaborative custody guys, which is a lot of value.
Aside from the collaborative custody guys, but there were a number of people that have come out saying, "Yeah, I thought about multi-sig, but I ultimately didn't do it." And so many people are saying that. And it really makes me think, like, how have we failed on this front? Like, there's really nothing complicated about multisig other than the user experience. Because if you look at the script on chain, it is dead simple. What's not simple is the user experience of every fucking wallet, making it extraordinarily confusing and challenging and difficult to replicate.
No, I mean, they made it. Listen, multisig is a lot easier today than it was like 9 years ago. I think what is that it's just less convenient. And people like the more convenient route, always, with anything, with everything.
I mean, rolling dice 100 times isn't.
But that's a one-time event. Every time you need to sign a transaction, you need to have two
devices. It is pretty.
You got to go through. You got to find it. You got to go get the devices. It's just more convenient not to have a. That's it.
I don't think it's convenience. I think it's that people were intimidated by setting it up.
But yet they went and they rolled dice and created high entry passphrases.
I think they maybe have. Felt protected enough with dice.
Talk to the people who didn't do it and ask them why.
That's true. If anyone in the audience decided not, well, we can maybe have that conversation once we're done. But have we all come to an agreement that it's a combination of both attacks? And in terms of the leaking of the seed, like that was done pretty much exactly how you would have wanted to do it. And then whether or not there was this exfiltration thing, like I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah,
but at this point, the cover's blown. So like to do it now, I mean, actually, this is the silver lining, because so here's actually silver lining. If we go complete conspiratorial, nutcase tinfoil hat, because the cover was blown by Kimmy K3, there's no way they're going to pull the ripcord on the exfiltration now, because that would be a dead giveaway. So like that, even if it was baked in, was now actually. Like more people were saved because of AI fucking tripping the wire earlier, which is a crazy, like if it does end up playing out in this way, like crazy fucking like conspiratorial way.
Dude, imagine
would actually be the saving grace of like not most of the users who got out safe.
Dude, it would be a crazy fucking movie. If someone made a movie, even if it's like a completely fiction movie, completely fiction, doesn't have to be a true story. But just a guy.
Make sure you change the names of like all the devices.
Yeah, everything. Completely fiction. Because that would be a kick-ass movie. You can make a fucking crazy movie out of that.
That's crazy though. I like that idea that AI saved the day in many ways. Even though I get it.
It's like trying to help us out without us knowing.
A lot of people got hurt, and like we're all coping with that in different ways. And some of us actually got hurt, and some had loved ones and close friends who got hurt. Some are just feeling the pain of many, even if they're not close. And so that's hard to deal with. But I think it's still important to think these things through, because it makes us more aware of the threats. And we need to be aware of all the threats if we're being serious about our own self-custody.
So Wicked, like if you teach people just like I do, meetup, stuff like that, basically, there were two big lessons out of here just for public, for the other 300 people listening, if they don't understand the nuances. You basically independent verification, guys. We trusted reputation. You want independent verification, and then the more value you have somewhere, your risk equation changes, and that would play to Dee's comment on the multi-key setup. And that's the way we used to do it a long time ago before things got easy, right? So that would be a area of interest and focus that people should probably look more into. So yeah, that's all.
Okay. So I want to make another announcement, right, which I've made already in the past. Right now, we are just completely exploring the space of how you would conduct an attack on a hardware device to its fullest. We're not implying that Coinkite did this, right? There's no evidence to indicate that they did. We're waiting for evidence to come out, and if it comes out, then we'll assess that evidence and come to our own conclusions. But right now, there's still not enough evidence to know one way or another. So we're waiting for that evidence. In the meantime, I think it is important to fully understand these ideas so that when the evidence does come out, we can understand the implications, which is why we're talking about it now. Now, one thing I wanted to bring up is with the exfiltration attack, if you're baking it into the shipped firmware, is it something that
Wicked, please, I have to answer this phone call or Tidwell will not stop. But before I go,
go
dude, somebody in the audience just said that this bug creates plausible deniability. No, my way creates plausible deniability because you can just selectively steal the fattest, juiciest wallets you want, and only those, and leave not a single shred of proof that theft had anything to do with your device, anything to do with your entropy or key generation whatsoever.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in.
I gotta go though.
Well, yeah, it doesn't have to be in the. Well, I guess.
Oh shit! Rob Hamilton's calling me. I gotta go.
That's the best excuse for leaving the stage. So, Mr. Hoddle, you probably know. Oh, okay. You're making fun of Shinobi at Rob Hamilton. I thought you were saying he was calling you.
Yeah, Rob's calling me.
Okay.
He just messaged me. I gotta go, guys.
One thing I am wondering though, so if you can bake in the exfiltration attack with the shipped firmware but don't release it publicly, can you also bake in the lower entropy attack with the shipped firmware in it much more, like you don't even have to hide it really at that point?
That one's hard.
And then
that one's it's hard to verify. Let's say you're only using 32 bits of entropy, it's hard to see which space of the entire private key 202 to the 256 that you're using.
Well, it's impossible unless you know how the inputs are being consumed.
Yeah, unless you know.
Right. So you need to be able to traverse the entire code path and the executable all the way down to the bottom, where you learn what the pseudo random inputs are.
But it's not
Otherwise,
just about
you don't know how to constrain the space.
But it's not just about looking at the code, right? Because source viewable, open source, whatever. But how many people are actually verifying that the code they see in the GitHub repository is the code on their device?
Well, not very many, but this is the point, right? So the assumption is most people aren't flashing their own firmware. And I think one thing.
But even if you flash it, how it's oh, congrats, you succeeded in flashing the firmware, but maybe it didn't really do it.
But that's an interesting point. Now, this is where you would have the thing that Zach talked about, where you have the two-way hash, where you hash the firmware to see if it matches, and then it goes the other. He said I don't fully understand it, but you do it the other way as well to make sure that what is hashing it is correctly doing it. And so Foundation apparently solves that problem. You'd have to ask Zach more about that. I'll learn about it more next time we talk.
I mean, just paranoid. You could load firmware onto the device and say, "Bitch, what's the hash? What's the hash, bitch?" And it gives you the correct hash, but it's not running the actual firmware.
So it just lies to you. But the thing is, you would check it but then anybody who's doing a security audit, that would be the first thing you check, is see if the hash that's being put on the screen is the same that's hashed when you do it your own way, or when you do it not on the device. So that's a trivial check to make sure that this isn't doing something funky. But I was actually thinking, if you just for the hash, if you made what looked to be a random division of hashes where you say of all the hash space, half on this side are the hashes we'll use for the compromised firmware, and half on this side are the ones we will use for the others. Then, I'm trying to think here. What was I getting at with this one? The problem is that the firmware that it comes with would be the one that's affected. Well, anyways, I don't think there's really any way you can solve the problem of the firmware on the device. Like the firmware that ships on the device should never be trusted, I think, is the ultimate point of this conversation. Because if someone were trying to conduct the optimal retirement attack, it would involve that as being one of the legs of the attack. It would involve a leg of the attack where they also rug everybody who didn't flash their own firmware. And then we can game out ways in which you can like affect new firmware and undetected. But that's way more complicated to do.
But the firmware that ColdCard, didn't the MK3 come with firmware that wasn't infected in the very beginning?
That's actually a really well,
Yeah,
but
it
they
did.
didn't have the opportunity to refactor all the code and maybe realize that they could conduct this attack at that point.
I mean, this is kind of why like the narrative of like you must always update firmware, like
Is pretty
if
true.
you're not introducing a potential bug, yeah.
That might
That's
D++,
the
that
first
might have been
step.
true before LLMs, but now with Kimmy on the rise, I think whenever I get an update, I think I might update it right away. I've never used to do that, but I think
Yeah.
that might change right now for a little bit at least.
Are you
It's
gonna
tough
point? Are you gonna
because
point me at the new firmware and like have it game it out first?
Yeah.
Like look for exploits. I
Might
guess
as well.
everyone will.
I mean, yeah,
Enough
it
people
doesn't.
will be that hopefully it'll be able to find things, and you probably wouldn't even have to. It's kind of like one of those one of many.
I mean, dude, it's so much easier now to verify. Like before LLMs, people would be, there was no way they would be verifying anything, or they don't even know how to verify a PGP key. But now you have LLMs that could literally do it for you. Like you don't even need to know how to do it anymore.
I have a question. So, Zach, with Foundation, buddy. So first of all, I want to come meet you in person and like see what's up with.
He wants a job. He wants a job.
Well, I'd love a job, but anyways, it'd be cool to work in the Bitcoin space and stay in Boston. That'd be great. I don't want to have to move from my home. That being said, even if it doesn't lead to any sort of employment, I do want to understand more about everything around your product, because if I'm being honest, and I did say this already, I guess in private, but part of the reason why I wasn't personally affected by this in terms of my close friends and circles is because I gave them all Foundation passports and BitKeys. like I knew for them the Foundation passport would be way better UX than the ColdCard, and so I do.
Most of my friends and family are still on Treasure 1.
Yeah, but anyways, so I will say, because before you don't have to respond, Zach, but it would seem like, why don't you? I know it's terrible UX, fucking terrible UX, but why don't you fucking force your users to flash the firmware? Like, just fucking force them to do it. If they don't want to do it, then they don't deserve to do self-custody. Just fucking force them to flash it. They have to.
Hold up. It's a little violent. I see Kelly's in the audience. I'd love to get it.
Bro, like if you don't flash your firmware, then you're asking for trouble.
I don't know.
You're going to get rugged eventually. So like, and by the way, every hardware wallet, as we've just discussed, and again, I'm not trying to make people panic. Okay, so I'm sorry. But it is true. I mean, the JW conspiracy tinfoil hat thing is like totally true.
But if you had an old Qualcomm ColdCard, it's a mouthful, and you
Before
didn't ever flash it, you would have been fine. Anyway, can Kelly?
Right, because they didn't have the opportunity. They had to build all the.
Can I?
Okay.
Can I point out though, just real quick, and I gotta hop off in a minute, guys. I got
Zach's like, there's no fucking way this guy's coming to my office.
No, so there's a couple things here. One is like right now, I think the challenge is there's this circular loop. You can have the bootloader verify the firmware hash, and you can have the firmware hash verify the bootloader hash. But if there's some like malicious, extremely malicious, company that went to great lengths to build like a fake bootloader, then flashing the firmware yourself isn't going to do much because, well, it's tough because like we restrict, and all the hardware wallet companies restrict firmware to be signed by the provider, because we don't want customers like flashing their own firmware on the device, because that's how customers get like phished. You get tricked into downloading like malicious firmware and then you go install it. So I'm going to think more about like, is there anything we could do to break the circular dependency of the trust, right? Like, is there, and it, you can look outside the
ColdCard
Bitcoin.
had the green and red light, right?
Now that doesn't do shit if it's malicious. And I just want to point
they're
out,
malicious.
you guys,
it does. Because here's the reason why it does. If you're trying to protect against like other third-party malicious firmware, and because let's say you're super malicious and you are, well, in this case you can't be malicious.
But they show a
because
warning. Coinkite would always let you install your own firmware, but it shows a warning on boot, so you don't even need the light, just because they don't let you replace the bootloader. But if
that doesn't protect, like, so you are always going to be protected if you're navigated to like the open source repository that everyone is navigated to, right? And maybe the one thing is like, if you're a super malicious company, maybe like 1 in every 1,000 cards with the fucking QR code you put on your devices, like that's the one that brings them to like the really bad
That's
one.
how an attack would happen. I mean, like,
But
if there
honestly,
is a future attack,
that one
that's
is
how
so
it would happen.
that one's not a great retirement attack, because you don't know if your user's going to use it. You don't know how much Bitcoin they're going to put in. Like there's no control there. It's completely random. And also you might just so happen to send that to the person who like fucking actually goes to the site on their own and doesn't follow the stupid card QR code, right? So, I think the like shipping with a card QR that brings you directly to the repository, and then that way people who are checking it would be brought to that too, and they can determine if like you're actually making good, or like allowing for good firmware to be downloaded from there. And then to protect against the malicious aspect of this, you just have like the same types of warnings and flashing the fucking red lights everywhere if it's a firmware that is not yours, right? Because like obviously, even if you're malicious,
yeah,
you
but
don't want
my
the
point is that
firmware on
my
there.
point is that the bootloader still like, there's no way for the customer to know what the bootloader is, and so you're still trusting this fundamental aspect of the hardware. And I'm already working on, I'm gonna try to see if there's anything we can do. What I was gonna say is, this happens outside of Bitcoin or crypto world. More sophisticated chips like Intel Xeon processors that allow for confidential compute with what's called TDX is the latest stuff, but you guys might have heard of SGX, which was always like compromised in the past. They allow for like attestation, where you can actually ask the chip to do like an attestation, like essentially it's a hash of the entire image running in this environment. And like, I don't think there's anything like that on hardware wallet chips. And I know Qualcomm makes a brand new chip where it allows you to run like an OS in a trusted execution environment where you could get an attestation. That's the kind of thing that I think would be really interesting for the industry, where like all you need to know is that the firmware, the bootloader, all the shit that the manufacturer publishes on GitHub can all be boiled down to a single hash. And then that could be verified by like the chip vendor offering it as like something native to the processor. And like I said, it exists outside of our world, but I don't think it exists in any chip that is used by a hardware wallet. So I got to hop off, but I'm going to take this as some homework for me to kind of learn more about this and see if there's any options like available to us, because it's a really important problem.
Are those chips more expensive? Is that the
No, I
reason
mean,
why they're
those
not
are what you
used?
find in a desktop computer. The Qualcomm one, though, is they're just coming out with this new one. It's not even out yet, but it also has built-in 5G and Wi-Fi, right? It's meant for like
We're so
IoT
old.
devices.
We're owned. We're wrecked. Okay, there's no hope, man. We're all wrecked.
And on that note, I'm out of here.
Well,
Thanks,
no,
guys.
we're not. Thanks, Zach, for coming up, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Mr.
Yes,
Hodl. when I'm in a better state of mind, probably. Mr. Huddle. I don't think we're wrecked though, because there's still like the multi-vendor multisig angle, and so there could be a super.
That's not the part of getting wrecked. So like, all right, I was an Alex Jones dude before Bitcoin, right? Like I was all about Alex Jones, and like then the whole Snowden thing came out, and then once I realized how everything's backdoored, I came to a conclusion that the United States government basically owns the internet. They own the cables, they own the satellites. Anything that goes through the pipes, they'll see. They could do it. If you are basically a target, you have no hope. There's no chance. Like on the internet, you have zero chance. But like that's why even encryption, right? Like I mean, Signal might be encrypted, but if your device is owned, who gives a shit? They'll still be able to see everything. But with Bitcoin, like you have certain parts of Bitcoin where I mean, maybe SHA-256 is already owned and we just don't know about it yet. Like maybe there's some secret shit they have, but the math is out. It's pretty sound, right? Like SHA-256 hash. Like that's sound, but the software that we're fucking using always is on the fucking hardware, man. And if the hardware gets owned, the software could be the best software you could have, and it just doesn't matter at that point.
So we always are going to need, I think, for our main stacks, we're going to need hardware that's offline. There's no way around it.
There's no way around that. You need that.
Okay, so like you need, at the very least, you need to have a backup vault, which is backed up by like the hardware fucking tinfoil hat thing. And maybe like in the future, we have this beautiful future with covenants where you don't need that for your main stack because you have vaults. And that's like the fucking, eject button. So you can have like easier signing and blah, 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 blah. But in the case of emergency, now you have your super ironclad, backup, whatever. And so, it's like, it's easier in terms of UX and processes to use all of your Bitcoin, but you still have the ultimate tripwire going back to like the tinfoil hat schizo thing that we're all doing right now, right? Hopefully, people are like actually learning about this and looking into all these things we're talking about, so that you can join us. But I think the first step to all of this, which I hope we all learned, and then I do have to rug the space. I'm sorry, I'm back home. Is learn how to flash your own firmware. I mean, I think we discussed a bunch of different types of attacks, and maybe it's not a foolproof silver bullet.
I mean, wait, I think,
but it does protect you.
Flashing,
it does protect.
But even saying that scares the shit out of people. All you have to say is install the new firmware, install the updated firmware, install the updated app on your Bitcoin calculator. You got to dumb it down, man. They think it's like this difficult thing. It's not difficult.
No, I don't want to dumb it down because people need to hear like the actual terminology, so when they hear it next time, they don't get scared. Like if people hear it here, then they fucking are like learning, because this is a learning space and we're all here to learn like how to make our Bitcoin more secure. So don't get scared by big words. If you don't know them, write them down and research, right? If you don't know big words, this is how you learn. If you don't know big words, you write it down. If you don't know a phrase, you write it down, and then you go ask your clanker about it and you talk to your clanker for a little while, right? Or like you reach out in DMs and you ask us like, hey, I heard you say flash firmware. What does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Like there's a learning space. We're not going to dumb down what we're saying at times. Sometimes we will, but sometimes we won't.
Well, then you got to explain to them what flashing firmware means.
No, we don't. Well, flashing, you already did. It means installing the new firmware. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hollow.
What? No. Like so. All right. Well, I told my cousin the other day, he's like, should I update this? And I'm like, update it. What do you mean?
But anyways, so I do have to go. I'm glad that we gamed this all out. I feel I'm still feeling pretty comfortable with my setup. Although anything to do with a single sig with a ColdCard, I maybe wouldn't be. That being said, I do think even in the worst case scenario, like they had, again, like no evidence to definitive evidence, and this is just me being like, as I said yesterday, I have an abundance of caution. even if they had set up this whole thing, this elaborate plan to do this like crazy retirement attack where they literally rug all the funds from all the cold cards, or like they have this elaborate attack where they can like pick and choose because they can infiltrate, you know, different aspects of it and it's not just one faceted. Even if that was true, I think the fact that Kimmy tripped the wire and now that everybody's looking at it and like literally there's agencies probably speaking with the founders, like at this point, it wouldn't make any sense for them to trip the other wires unless they just want to go full like chaos and fuck everything up mode. But if they do that, then they're basically going to spend the rest of their lives in jail. Like that would be an admission of, you know, like the fact that you fucking did it. And then you get nothing out of that other than just, you know, pure deceit of like, oh, I got caught and now I'm just going to fuck everything up for everyone else. Like that's not helpful for anything, even yourself. So even in the worst case scenario where all of these systems were set up and like were ready to go and they had the grand conspiracy plan, right? I don't think they would trip the other wires right now because it would serve no purpose. So out of abundance of caution, single sig culture stuff, probably going to move today, to be honest, maybe tomorrow, sometime in the next 3 or 4 or 5 days without giving away too much on-chain information. And I might like, you know, cycle it through some fucking liquid or something just to obfuscate some of my movements. Or to make them very obvious for that matter. Now that I've said it. That being said, I still think there's no reason to like panic if you still have a cold card with a seed. I think you should think about all these things we talked about, mull it over. If you think it's like a total schizo, retarded thing to worry about, then that's okay to think. And you know, you're an adult, you're making your own choices. If you're a little bit worried, then you know, make some plans to think through what you're going to do next and do things methodically. Make sure you don't fuck up because most people fuck up by doing things quickly and then they just lose their Bitcoin due to user error instead of like someone stealing it, right? And you don't want to be one of those people. So with that, thank you everyone for coming in. I am sorry again for, you know, all sorts of anger and cope and emotion that I'm feeling through this because I think it is quite the roller coaster. I'm sure you guys have experienced that as well. And so I just want to say that I love you. Goodbye.